Chapter 12:27. You know him? Although Yi Xian's voice was soft, it still entered Violet Spirit's ears. She looked at Yi Xian in surprise and asked. Yi Xian instantly woke up, knowing that he had been absent-minded. He pretended to be calm and said, I have also heard of this Lu Bai, but I have never had the chance to meet him. Little brother, although you are only a 9-heaven Saint King now, I believe that you will catch up to this person sooner or later. You should know that before the Heavenly Master reached Tao, he was not the strongest in his generation. However, in the end, he still reached Tao and became the strongest throughout the ages. Violet Spirit thought that Yi Xian had been affected by Lu Bai's achievements, so she was trying to comfort him. Sister, don't worry, I will cultivate in peace. Yi Xian said bluntly. What happened next was very simple. Violet Spirit briefly explained the things to pay attention to in the prodigy gathering and told Yi Xian to leave for the heaven-mending sect in 3 days. As Violet Spirit floated away, the smile on Yi Xian's face disappeared. He frowned slightly and let out a long sigh. In fact, although Yi Xian really wanted to meet Lu Bai, this prodigy gathering was not the best time. Moreover, if he really fought Lu Bai, it was not the result he wanted to see. What? Do you really know this Lu Bai? Suddenly, Gai Tianyuan's voice rang in Yi Xian's ears. Clearly, after interacting with Yi Xian for so long, he could see a bit of Yi Xian's temperament. Unparalleled throughout the ages, an unprecedented genius. Brother Bai is completely worthy of this title. Yi Xian said softly. Gai Tianyuan held his breath when he heard Yi Xian's words. He knew that Yi Xian was an extremely arrogant person with a heart higher than the heavens. To put Gai Tianyuan down, Yi Xian did not even look at him. However, such a prideful Yi Xian was actually praising someone. This was simply unbelievable. Unparalleled throughout the ages? An ancient genius? Gai Tianyuan muttered, Aren't you praising him too much? You'll understand when you see him. Yi Xian's eyes were drifting as he gazed at the distant horizon. A wisp of desolate aura was faintly discernible around him. 3 days later, the Heavenly Court. Speaking of which, the Heavenly Grip Court definitely occupied a very important position in the Myriad Spirit Sky Palace. The Heavenly Grip Court was responsible for imparting cultivation methods and secret skills. As long as one's aptitude was unparalleled, one would be able to learn many cultivation methods and secret skills from the Heavenly Grip Court. The master of the Heavenly Clan had white hair and a black beard. He wore a navy blue Taoist robe. When he opened and closed his eyes, it was as if the stars in the sky were rotating in his eyes. Just a glance at him would make one's heart tremble to the extreme. Heaven-wielding dojo. The master of the Heavenly Grip Court stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Ziling and Yuan Tian stood beside him. There were 3 people standing elegantly below them. They were the 2nd spiritual child, Li Jiwei, the 4th spiritual girl, Nangong Xian, and the 3rd spiritual child, Lin Daosan. Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian were naturally extraordinary. They were like a golden couple, dazzling and eye-catching. They gave off a noble and extraordinary feeling. Just their temperament alone was enough to make others feel ashamed of their inferiority. However, the 3rd spiritual child, Lin Daosan, was elegant and silent. His blue Taoist orthodoxy was extremely simple. Although he did not release any powerful aura, he gave off the feeling of an immortal. Lin Daosan's body had an immortal aura. Of course, the so-called immortal aura did not refer to the aura of an immortal. It was a kind of extraordinary and untainted temperament that one could only look at from afar and not dare to profane. Third brother, looking at your cultivation, it won't take long for you to catch up with me. Li Jiwei looked at Lin Daosan indifferently. His voice was as pleasant as pearls and jade. The great Tao is like the heavens. Following my heart, I just want to go with the flow in my cultivation. Lin Daosan replied indifferently. Third brother, you have a good state of mind. I admire you. Li Jiwei nodded slowly. Tap tap tap. Just as the 2 of them were talking, a series of light footsteps could be heard. This also made them look towards the source of the sound. Little brother. Looking at Yi Xian's arrival, Ziling extended her hand to beckon Yi Xian over. However, Yuan Tian frowned slightly and glanced at Yi Xian without saying a word. As for the Lord of the Heavenly Clan, he took a deep look at Yi Xian. A trace of disappointment flashed across his eyes because Yi Xian was only in the 9 heavens Saint King realm. Compared to the 3 spiritual children and spiritual children, he was too far away. If the Heaven Mending sect had not specifically asked Yi Xian to participate in the Outstanding Talents Grand Gathering, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan would not have wanted to bring Yi Xian along. Since everyone is here, we can set off. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan waved his hand and a starry sky giant ship appeared. Obviously, it was a kind of spiritual treasure that could carry them to the Heaven Mending sect. When the Lord of the Heavenly Clan boarded the starry sky giant ship, everyone followed in order. As the Lord of the Heavenly Clan used his spiritual power, the starry sky giant ship instantly cut through the sky and disappeared. The starry sky giant ship's power was indeed extraordinary, especially when it was driven by the Lord of the Heavenly Clan. It displayed an extremely terrifying speed. Although we have the starry sky giant ship, it will still take half a year to reach the Heaven Mending sect. The 4 of you can exchange your cultivation experiences. If you have any questions about cultivation, you can ask Ziling and Yuan Tian. This will also be of great help to you. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan said faintly. He then sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to rest. The starry sky giant ship was extremely spacious. Yi Xian sat alone with his eyes closed. Ziling also didn't want to chat with Yi Xian too much. After all, she was one of the leaders of this trip to the Heaven Mending sect. 9th brother, we haven't seen each other for many years. Do you still remember your second brother? Li Jiwei walked to the front of Yi Xian with a faint smile on her face as she looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He also had a smile on his face as he said, "Of course I remember. Second spirit child has the chaotic infinity battle physique. In the future he will definitely be the strongest seed. How can I not remember second brother?" Li Jiwei wasn't proud of Yi Xian's flattery. Instead, she sat beside Yi Xian and said softly, "9th brother, I know that Jinyang once had some conflicts with you. However, he is dead now. If you have any difficulties in the future, you can come to me. Then I'll have to thank second brother for taking care of me in the future." Yi Xian smiled and nodded. From beginning to end, he was very easygoing and even lowered his posture. "Little brother, I'll teach you a technique." Suddenly, Ziling called out to Yi Xian. This also made Yi Xian give Li Jiwei an apologetic look. He then got up and walked to Ziling's side. "Little brother, it's best if you don't interact with Li Jiwei. She is too scheming. As long as you don't offend her, there's no need to really interact with her." Ziling transmitted her voice. Hearing Ziling's transmission, Yi Xian's eyes slightly moved. He already felt that Li Jiwei should have some conflicts with Ziling, otherwise, Ziling wouldn't have reminded him. At the same time, Li Jiwei was smiling and nodding at Ziling. However, Ziling coldly snorted and didn't give Li Jiwei any face. "Big sister Ziling, this little brother of yours isn't ordinary." Nangong Xian slowly walked over. She first greeted Ziling and then took a deep look at Yi Xian. This also made Yi Xian's heart skip a beat. He suddenly had a bad feeling. Chapter 12:28. This woman's gaze? Yi Xian's mind was slightly shaken, because Nangong Xian's gaze was extremely strange, as if she had discovered some secret of his. This caused Yi Xian to raise his guard against Nangong Xian. "Little brother, little sister Nangong has always been on good terms with me. In the future, if you have any questions on the path of cultivation, you can ask her for guidance." Violet Spirit smiled. Clearly, Violet Spirit and Nangong Xian were both women, so they were naturally somewhat close in the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace. "Greetings, fourth sister." Yi Xian was extremely humble and hurriedly cupped his hands towards Nangong Xian, but Nangong Xian suddenly avoided it, and instead looked at Yi Xian with a smile. "9th brother, I dare not accept this bow. If one day I mysteriously disappear like that Jin Yang, wouldn't I be wronged?" As Nangong Xian's words entered his ears, Yi Xian's expression did not change, but his mind was greatly shaken, and a wisp of killing intent quietly flashed through his eyes. However, no one was able to see this change in Yi Xian. Xian, you suspect that Yu Yi killed Jin Yang? Violet's spirit frowned. How could she not understand the meaning behind Nangong Xian's words? Haha. Nangong Xian covered her mouth and laughed. Big sister, I just wanted to scare him, but I didn't expect that instead of scaring ninth brother, I scared big sister instead. Little sister can see that big sister and ninth brother are really close. You stinking girl, you usually have a dignified and steady appearance. Why are you so mischievous today? Violet's spirit laughed. At this moment, Yi Xian bitterly shook his head, looking extremely helpless, but his eyes were incomparably cold, because he knew that Nangong Xian was testing him, so he definitely could not show any panic. If not for the fact that this kid only has the cultivation of a ninth heaven saint king, he would be the biggest suspect for killing the 4 great spiritual sons. Suddenly, Yuan Tian glanced at Yi Xian, and his voice slowly sounded. Yuan Tian, what is the meaning of this? Violet Spirit's expression changed as she looked coldly at Yuan Tian. I'm just stating a fact. I didn't say that he was the murderer of the 4 great spiritual sons. Moreover, with his cultivation, let alone Ji Yin Yang, even the 8th spiritual son, Xia Weiyuan, can take his life. Yuan Tian said coldly. Yuan Tian, I know you're prejudiced against him. It's only because of the many conflicts between him and Tuoba Tian. However, as long as I'm in the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, don't make things difficult for him, Zi Ling reprimanded coldly. Difficult? Ah. Yuan Tian laughed coldly, then glanced at Yi Xian and said, a mere 9 heaven saint king, I wouldn't go so far as to make things difficult for a junior like him. However, in this Heaven's Pride banquet, this little brother of yours can only sit on the cold bench. If he were to really fight with the various geniuses, I'm afraid that he would fall at the feet of his opponent in less than a single round. At that time, where would your purple spirit saint envoy's face be placed? You? Violet's spirit was furious. She suddenly stood up and released the terrifying cultivation of the extreme Yin realm. She looked like she was going to attack Yuan Tian. What? Did I touch your sore spot? Yuan Tian was not afraid. They were both in the extreme Yin realm, but he was more powerful than Ziling naturally, he would not be afraid of Ziling. He did not back down at all. How dare you? Suddenly, the lord of the heavenly clan, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. His voice was like thunder, and the aura of the 2 instantly dissipated. Lord, please calm down. The 2 changed their expressions and hurriedly apologized to the lord of the heavenly clan. One of you is the law-enforcing elder of the heavenly clan, and the other used to be the maid of the divine master. Now you're arguing with each other. If outsiders see this, won't they laugh at the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace? The lord of the heavenly clan scolded coldly. Facing the lord of the heavenly clan's reproach, Ziling and Yuan Tian could only lower their heads and accept the scolding. They did not dare to refute the lord of the heavenly clan. Yuan Tian, the conflict between the juniors will be solved by them. If you deliberately provoke Ziling in the future, I will punish you for the sake of the lord of the heavenly clan. The lord of the heavenly clan scolded. Yuan Tian will follow your advice. Yuan Tian hurriedly bowed, but a touch of gloominess flashed across his eyes. Obviously, the lord of the heavenly clan was partial to Ziling, but he did not dare to refute. After all, Ziling used to follow the divine master of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. The lord of the heavenly clan naturally would not be harsh on Ziling. At this time, Yi Xian's brows drooped. From the beginning to the end, he didn't say a word. This was because Yi Xian could tell that the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace wasn't an iron bucket. Under such circumstances, he naturally had to remain silent. 9th spirit son, this time you will follow us to the prodigy's banquet to increase your knowledge. When you step into the creation realm in the future, you can participate in the next prodigy's grand gathering. You will not be in vain for Ziling to think highly of you. The lord of the heavenly clan said coldly. I will follow your advice. Yi Xian bowed, but a touch of coldness flashed across his eyes. It was obvious that not a single person there thought highly of him, seeing him as just a small character that was dispensable. Even the purple spirit thought that his powers were very weak. The rest of the people looked down on him even more, But this was what Yi Xian wanted to see, which also showed that he hid his strength well. However, Yi Xian had never been a low-key person. Since he came to participate in the prodigy's grand gathering, in addition to meeting Lu Bai, he had a bold plan in mind. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. When the starry sky ship appeared again through space, a vast heavenly palace also appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others. It was vast and boundless, and the heavenly gate was wide open. 9 rainbow bridges covered the world in all directions, and an ancient palace was rooted in the center of the universe. With the ancient palace as the center, there were countless jade palaces and red-crowned cranes flying and circling in the colorful clouds. This is the heaven-mending sect? Yi Xian's eyes were deep and his voice was slightly low. The heaven-mending sect is indeed very strong, but it is still far from being comparable to our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. However, the current sect master of the heaven-mending sect is a peerless figure, Ziling said timely. We have arrived at the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. When the master of the heaven-holding hall put away the starry sky ship, a rainbow bridge spread out from the heaven-mending sect. Under the guidance of the master of the heaven-holding hall, Yi Xian and the others also stepped on the rainbow bridge and entered the heaven-mending sect. At the same time, from time to time, there were people coming from all directions. Yi Xian could feel a terrifying aura from time to time. Obviously, these people were from various great sects and had come to participate in the prodigy's grand gathering. At the end of the rainbow bridge, a black-clothed man stood with his hands behind his back. Beside him stood a dozen disciples of the heaven-mending sect. When Yi Xian and the others arrived at the end of the rainbow bridge, the black-clothed man laughed loudly and walked toward the master of the heaven-holding hall. Heaven-holding hall, we haven't seen each other for many years. Today we must get drunk. Looking at the black-clothed man, the master of the heaven-holding hall revealed a rare smile on his cold face. He also walked toward the man and said, I also miss Taoist brother Qing Mu very much. Today, I naturally have to raise my cup and drink to my heart's content. Obviously, the two of them were old friends. Their words were very intimate. Under the guidance of the black-clothed man, Yi Xian and the others also officially entered the heaven-mending sect. Yi Xian did not pay attention to the black-clothed man. Instead, he observed the disciples of the heaven-mending sect beside him as if he was looking for the person he wanted to see. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was disappointed. Lu Bai was not among these disciples. Chapter 12:29. So, under the lead of the Greenwood Pavilion Master, everyone was arranged to stay in the Greenwood Pavilion, and the Greenwood Pavilion Master naturally had to welcome the Heavenly Grip Court Master. Spiritual fruits and immortal wine were all talked about. Yi Xian and the others were warmly received, while the Heavenly Grip Court Master and the Greenwood Pavilion Master were drinking and chatting merrily, making the entire Greenwood Pavilion extremely lively. I've always heard that the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace has 12 Spirit Sons. I presume the 4 of you are seated below? The Greenwood Pavilion Master said with a smile. Li Jiwei greets Senior Greenwood. Nangong Xian greets Senior Greenwood. Lin Daosen greets Senior Greenwood. Yao Yueya greets Senior Greenwood. Yi Xian and the other 3 greeted him one by one. Jiwei Battle Physique, Mysterious Yellow Battle Physique, and Dao Accumulation Battle Physique. Good. The Greenwood Pavilion Master clapped his hands and praised, I've long heard that the 12 Spirit Sons of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace are all extraordinary and have rare battle physiques. Today, I've seen it for myself. But this must be Jiu Lingzi, right? The Greenwood Pavilion Master narrowed his eyes and finally looked at Yi Xian. A deep look flashed across his eyes. I've embarrassed myself in front of you. Jiu Lingzi only has the Demon Moon battle physique, and his cultivation hasn't stepped into the creation realm yet. This time, I'm here because of your sect's request and also to let him come and broaden his horizons, the Heavenly Grip Court Master said awkwardly. After all, among the 3 Spirit Sons, Nangong Xian and Lin Daosan were both in the 2nd stage of the creation realm, while Li Jiwei was already in the 3rd stage of the creation realm. Just the 3 of them were enough to make the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace proud. However, Yi Xian's cultivation was indeed a ninth heaven Saint King, which made the heavenly grip court elder feel a little embarrassed. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Yi Xian. The dozen spirit sons of the heaven-mending sect looked at him coldly, and some of them even looked eager to try. As the saying went, it was obvious that Yi Xian was the weakest among the four. Yi Xian and the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. If the spirit sons of the heaven sect could defeat Yi Xian, it would naturally be a proud heaven-mending sect's achievement. At this moment, Yi Xian lowered his eyes and said nothing. He could feel everyone's contemptuous gazes and could guess what they were thinking. I've always heard that the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace has countless secret techniques and is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. Disciple Zhang Lin would like to seek advice from 9th spirit son. I hope Pavilion Master will allow me to do so. Suddenly, a yellow-robed young man walked out. He first bowed to the Greenwood Pavilion Master and the Heavenhold Court Master before he looked at Yi Xian with a smile. Provocation, a blatant provocation. However, Yi Xian didn't say anything. As for the Heavenhold Hall Master, he frowned. If he didn't agree, it would make him seem petty. Little Nine, why don't you spar with him? The Heavenly Clan Master said. Yi Xian walked out slowly and bowed to the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall, refusing the order of the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall. Lord, I've been practicing a secret method recently, so it's not suitable for me to exchange pointers with others for the time being. How about 3 senior brothers and senior sisters accompany this fellow Taoist to exchange pointers? Coward! Yi Xian's performance was extremely humble, but in the eyes of everyone, he was a coward. Obviously, he was afraid of this spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect. This also made the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall's face turn cold. A trace of anger and disappointment flashed across his eyes. Since this brother wants to exchange pointers, why don't I exchange pointers with you? Lin Daosen walked out slowly and looked at this person indifferently. Although he didn't release any aura, just his deep and indifferent gaze made the spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect change his expression. I've long heard that fellow Taoist Lin is the 3rd spiritual son. How can I be your opponent? Let's forget about this competition. Zhang Lin smiled stiffly and turned around to return to his seat. This scene also made the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall's expression slightly ease. Fortunately, Lin Daosen had gotten back his face. Otherwise, the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace would have lost a lot of face today. However, after this incident, Yi Xian was also labeled as a coward. The spiritual sons of the heaven-mending sect didn't pay attention to him anymore. Instead, they frequently toasted with Li Jiwei and the other 2 from time to time. It was quite a good idea to build a good relationship with them, fawning over the powerful and climbing up the dragon's ladder. This had always been the root of human inferiority. Even the spiritual sons of the heaven-mending sect were no exception. Yi Xian tasted the wine in his cup indifferently and was extremely calm from the beginning to the end. However, he could feel that although the Greenwood Pavilion Master had been talking with the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall, his eyes fell on him from time to time. Obviously, he paid great attention to him. If Yi Xian didn't guess wrong, the Greenwood Pavilion Master's observation of him from time to time obviously had something to do with Lu Bai. Brother Greenwood, Little Nine ranks 9th among the spiritual sons of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. I wonder why your sect invited him to the Talents Grand Gathering? The Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall asked the question in his heart. The Greenwood Pavilion Master lightly smiled, then indifferently glanced at Yi Xian and said, My sect's godchild has always heard that the demon moon battle body's battle prowess can double when the moon rises, so I've always wanted to experience it. I see. The Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall didn't doubt him and seemed to accept this explanation. So, the welcoming banquet came to a successful end. Yi Xian and the others were also arranged to stay in the Greenwood Pavilion. The lonely moon hung high in the sky, and the stars filled the sky. A ray of bright moonlight sprinkled down, illuminating the courtyard without a speck of dust. Yi Xian stood in the center of the courtyard with his hands behind his back. A cool breeze blew over, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. He looked at the sky without saying a word, and he didn't panic when he heard the earth move. In the breeze, Yi Xian was like an ancient rock, with a sense of calmness. He seemed to be waiting for someone who would definitely find him tonight. I always thought that among the 12 spiritual sons, only the first spiritual son and Li Jiwei could be counted as important, but today I found that you, little 9, are the one who hides the deepest. A beautiful figure quietly appeared behind Yi Xian. Who else could it be but Nangong Xian? Yi Xian didn't move, nor did he look back. He looked up at the stars in the sky silently, as if he was thinking about something. However, you have truly shocked me. Although the 10,000 poisons powder is extremely overbearing, I still find it hard to believe that you were able to kill Ji Yinyang and the other 3 by yourself. Nangong Xian muttered to herself. I don't understand what you are talking about. Yi Xian slowly turned around, his expression calm, and looked at Nangong Xian indifferently. You don't understand? Nangong Xian smiled coldly. Ninth brother, perhaps others don't know that you killed the 4 spiritual sons, but you definitely can't fool me. Looking at Nangong Xian's extremely confident look, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, What evidence do you have to say that I killed them? Evidence? Nangong Xian smiled slightly. Ninth brother, you may not know, but I know a little about alchemy. Although the formula of the 10,000 poisons powder has been lost, I know that the Yuan Ling grass is the main ingredient of the 10,000 poisons powder. The 100,000-year-old Yuan dissolving spiritual grass that I gave you in the Medicine King Pavilion is the biggest evidence, Nangong Xian said. What a joke, it's just a stalk of Yuan Ling grass. How can you be sure that I killed them? Yi Xian said coldly. Chapter 1230. Originally, I only suspected it, but after my investigation and what I saw today, I am very sure that you are the real culprit who killed Ji Yinyang and the others, Nangong Xian said coldly. Oh. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, Then tell me. When you returned to Star Do City from the Great Southern Do region, you beat Tuoba Tian until he couldn't fight back. This proves that your combat strength is much higher than his. When Ji Yinyang came to kill you in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, although Zi Ling blocked him for you, the hatred between the two of you is deeply rooted. The most important thing is that although Ji Yinyang is annoying, he doesn't have any enemies. Among the 12 spiritual sons, only you have a deep hatred for him. The most important thing is that if someone in the Yinyang realm wanted to kill him, they wouldn't need to use the 10,000 poison powder at all. So when all these suspicious points are added together, you are the real culprit who killed them, Nangong Xian said coldly. Today in the main hall, the heaven-mending sect's spiritual son challenged you. The opponent was only a 9 heavens Saint King. With your combat strength, you shouldn't be afraid of him at all, but you hid your strength and made everyone look down on you. Ninth brother, I have to say that your scheming is really deep, Nangong Xian sneered. You are very smart to be able to suspect me just from these suspicious points. Indeed, I have a whole new level of respect for you, Yi Xian said faintly and nodded. You admit it? Nangong Xian's eyes flashed with surprise. So what if I admit it? Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back, and a cold look flashed across his eyes. Aren't you afraid that I will reveal your matter to the public? Nangong Xian looked at Yi Xian in surprise because she found that Yi Xian was extremely calm, as if he wasn't afraid that she would expose this secret. Do you think you have the chance? Yi Xian said in a low voice, and a strange smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What happened next made Nangong Xian's expression change. The chaotic star runes covered the sky and the earth. Strands of starlight streaked across the sky and instantly covered the entire courtyard. The ancient and vast aura instantly drowned the two of them. This was the Great Heaven Sealing Formation, a peerless great restriction. Not to mention Nangong Xian, who was at the 2nd stage of the creation realm. Even if he was at the 3rd stage of the creation realm, he would still need to spend an extremely long time to break this peerless great restriction. Don't forget that Yi Xian had once passed the primal chaos trial. He himself was a great grandmaster of array formations, and the progress of the star origin incantation that his avatar cultivated was extremely great, allowing him to set up primal chaos restrictions with ease. Before Yi Xian had even arrived at the heaven-mending sect, he had already been on guard against Nangong Xian. Today, he had even set up this peerless restriction early on. He was definitely going to trap and kill Nangong Xian here. What formation is this? Nangong Xian exclaimed in shock. She only felt that she had fallen into a fog. Even if she unleashed all of her cultivation, she still wouldn't be able to break this terrifying formation. Separated by heaven and earth, forming a region of its own. This formation is called the Yin-Yang Spirit Devouring 5 Elements Reversal Formation. Unless your cultivation is at the Yin-Yang realm, you won't be able to return once you step into this formation. Yi Xian strolled in the formation as strands of starlight surrounded his body. He was an array grandmaster, and he had even set up this peerless great formation in advance. How could Nangong Xian resist it? Yin-Yang Reversal, 5 Elements Reversal. Yi Xian didn't join the battle with Nangong Xian. After all, her cultivation was much higher than his. He directly formed the astral origin art with both hands, and strands of starlight shot out. This terrifying formation was also rumbling as it was activated. "Let me out!" Nangong Xian shouted angrily. She tried her best to unleash her cultivation, but the formation had already been activated. The 5 elements reversal and yin-yang strangulation force directly caused her to suffer a supreme calamity. Tong Tian was an expert in the Tao of formations. Especially chaotic star masters, they used the chaos as a chessboard and all living beings as chess pieces. Their means were simply terrifying beyond imagination. Yi Xian's main body hadn't even cultivated the star origin incantation, yet he'd already displayed such a terrifying ability. If his avatar and main body were to fuse into one, the formation he'd set up right now might even be able to kill Nangong Xian. Rumble! Chaos lightning struck down, and the yin-yang mystic fire wreaked havoc on her body. This yin-yang spirit devouring 5 elements reversal formation was too terrifying. The supreme power that erupted from it made Nangong Xian retreat in a sorry state. She couldn't even absorb the spiritual energy of the outside world, and she couldn't even open her own creation world. Stop! Nangong Xian retreated in a sorry state. Her fine black hair was already in a mess, and her entire body was bombarded by the power of the formation. She couldn't resist at all. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't move at all. He activated the formation coldly. Today, Nangong Xian would definitely die tragically. Yi Xian was confident. One had to know that this was the means of a chaotic star master, and it was a formation that he had set up for a long time. If he wasn't certain, Yi Xian wouldn't have used it. Today, it was to eliminate a hidden danger like Nangong Xian. Little Jiao, do you want to step into the creation realm? Suddenly, just as Nangong Xian was about to be unable to withstand it, she berated Yi Xian loudly. This also made Yi Xian's breathing stop, and the hand seals he used to activate the formation suddenly slowed down. Creation realm? What do you mean? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Nangong Xian gasped with difficulty, and she hurriedly said, "Actually, I'm looking for you today because I want to negotiate with you, and I have great benefits for you." Why should I believe you? Yi Xian's eyes were slightly cold. The second spiritual son, Li Jiwei, has the Jiwei battle body, but you definitely don't know that he is actually not a human, but a member of the Azure Dragon clan. This person's body contains dragon essence. As long as you and I can work together to kill him and swallow his dragon essence, you can easily step into the creation realm, and I can also break through to the 3rd stage of the creation realm. Nangong Xian quickly explained. Dragon essence? Yi Xian was suddenly stunned. The so-called dragon essence was the essence of the dragon clan. If one could swallow it, one's cultivation would increase tremendously. However, Yi Xian didn't expect that Li Jiwei was actually a member of the Azure Dragon clan. However, Yi Xian was relieved. There were thousands of clans in the chaotic world, and not only humans, so it was not strange that Li Jiwei was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. Xiao Jiao, I am not a match for Li Jiwei alone, but with you, it will be different. You should have the infinite poison powder in your hands. As long as you and I plan well in this talents banquet, we can definitely kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in his body. And even if you don't covet the dragon essence in his body, Li Jiwei has always coveted Purple Spirit and wants Purple Spirit to marry him. If you and I kill Li Jiwei, we can also help Purple Spirit get rid of this disaster. Isn't this killing two birds with one stone? Nangong Xian said. You are really vicious. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and saw through Nangong Xian's real thoughts at a glance. Obviously, Nangong Xian knew that he had the infinite poison powder in his hands, so she wanted to cooperate with him to kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in his body. This way, not only could he improve his cultivation, but he would also have one less strong opponent among the 12 spiritual sons. Chapter 12:31. Nangong Xian quickly stated her purpose, which also made Yi Xian ponder for a moment. There was a hint of interest in his eyes. Dragon essence was a good thing. It was the essence of the dragon clan. If he could consume Li Jiwei's dragon essence, his cultivation would definitely skyrocket. Buzz. Yi Xian waved his hand to disperse the array, and Nangong Xian took the opportunity to escape. However, she still had lingering fears about Yi Xian's means. She didn't expect Yi Xian to know how to set up arrays. Tell me your plan in detail. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Nangong Xian indifferently. The next day, Nangong Xian had already left, and only Yi Xian was sitting cross-legged in the void. When he opened and closed his eyes, there would occasionally be a flash of killing intent. There was even a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Little brother, come to the Greenwood Pavilion quickly. Suddenly, Violet Spirit's voice rang in Yi Xian's ears. This also made Yi Xian stand up from the void and take a step forward, disappearing into the void. In the Greenwood Pavilion, Li Jiwei and the other two were standing there. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan was in the middle, and Violet Spirit and Yuan Tian were on both sides. When Yi Xian walked in, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan's face turned slightly cold, but he didn't say anything. It was no wonder that the Lord of the Heavenly Clan's face didn't look good when he saw Yi Xian. Yi Xian's performance yesterday had made him extremely disappointed. If it weren't for Violet Spirit, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan wouldn't even look at Yi Xian. Today at noon, the Heaven Mending Sect will hold the Heaven's Chosen Banquet and invite the spiritual sons of various sects to drink and chat. I hope the four of you won't embarrass our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan seemed to be reminding everyone, but his eyes were fixed on Yi Xian. Obviously, he was warning Yi Xian not to embarrass himself like yesterday. Heaven's Chosen Banquet? Li Jiwei murmured doubtfully. She bowed to the Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall and said, the Heavenly Pride Banquet is held every 5 million years. There are still 10 years before the banquet, but I have never heard of any Heavenly Pride Banquet. Not only did Li Jiwei have this doubt, but so did the others. To put it bluntly, every Tianjiao banquet was a competition between the spiritual sons of various sections. How could there be a Tianjiao banquet? Looking at everyone's puzzled expressions, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master said in a deep voice, the so-called Heaven's Chosen Banquet was suddenly held by the Heaven Mending Sect. It was also to let the spiritual sons of the various sects get to know each other before the big battle. This time, only the younger generation like you will gather. As for us old fellows, it is inconvenient for us to participate. The Lord of the Sky Holding Hall paused for a moment before continuing. However, the one hosting this Heaven's Chosen Banquet is the new divine son of the Heaven Mending Sect, Lu Bai. I'm sure all of you have heard of this person's name. This person's innate talent is unparalleled, and his battle prowess is unparalleled. The outside world has always been rumored to have some kind of terrifying mutated battle physique. Lu Bai? Li Jiwei's eyes moved slightly, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He had long heard that the Heaven Mending Sect had a peerless divine son who had never been defeated since he was born. However, in Li Jiwei's opinion, he was only one step away from entering the Yin realm. As long as his opponent's cultivation was not in the Yin-Yang realm or the Yin realm, he would definitely be no match for him. Perhaps the Lord of the Sky Holding Hall felt Li Jiwei's confidence, which made him frown slightly and say, although you are the second spiritual son of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, you must not be careless this time. This divine son of the heaven-mending sect fought against 3 spiritual sons of the extreme emotion heavenly palace alone and escaped unscathed. Moreover, he once killed a ferocious beast of the Een realm. If you are defeated by him, our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace will lose face. Don't worry, Hall Master. Li Jiwei will definitely defeat the spiritual sons of various sects and spread the name of our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, Li Jiwei said lightly, exuding an extreme confidence. Don't worry, Hall Master. With the 3 of us, we will be able to suppress all the geniuses in this talent's grand gathering. Lin Daosen was transcendent and had a sense of calmness. However, no one noticed that at this moment, Yi Xian's brows were lowered, and there was a trace of complexity in his eyes. Yi Xian had thought that he would have to wait until the talent's grand gathering to see Lu Bai. He did not expect to see an old friend today. Yi Xian did not need to guess. He knew that this talent's grand gathering was Lu Bai's plan. The real purpose was probably to meet the 9th spiritual son, Yao Yueye, because he had spread the news that Yao Yueye had killed him. According to the friendship between him and Lu Bai, how could Lu Bai let Yao Yueye go? However, what made Yi Xian sigh helplessly was that he had not died. Instead, he had turned into Yao Yueye's appearance. He and Lu Bai had to meet under such circumstances. Soon, Yi Xian and the other 3 left the Greenwood Pavilion under the guidance of the heaven-mending sect's attendants. They headed toward the location of the talent's grand gathering. It had to be said that even though the heaven-mending sect was not as vast as the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, it could still be considered a great sect. As far as the eye could see, the sky was high and the clouds were vast. Ancient divine mountains towered majestically in the sky, making people feel insignificant. Green Cloud Mountain. The Tongtian Mountain stretched across the heavens and the earth. The clouds in the sky lifted the entire divine mountain. There was even a protective divine light surrounding the mountain, illuminating the entire Green Cloud Mountain. This Green Cloud Mountain was protected by the Heaven and Earth Great Formation. It was also a Heaven and Earth Tao field. Even if one used the Great Chaotic Heaven technique, they would not be able to break this Heaven and Earth Great Formation. It was enough for people to fight to their heart's content. 4 spiritual sons, the Green Cloud Mountain is right in front of you. All the geniuses have gathered here. You can enter by yourselves. The heaven-mending sect's attendants left, leaving only Yi Xian and the other 3 looking at the divine mountain in front of them. Little 9, your cultivation is the weakest. If someone provokes you, you don't have to pay attention. The 3 of us will stand up for you. Li Jiwei spoke indifferently, as if she was the boss of the 4. Although she did not order Yi Xian around, there was still an element of command. Thank you for your advice, second brother. In the future, I will have to trouble the 3 of you to take care of me. Yi Xian smiled slightly and cupped his hands toward the 3 of them. Li Jiwei was very satisfied with Yi Xian's attitude, but Nangong Xian looked on coldly from the side. A trace of ridicule flashed across her eyes. Brothers from the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, please. Suddenly, while they were talking, a rainbow bridge spread out from the Green Cloud Mountain. Yi Xian and the other 3 looked at each other, stepped on the rainbow bridge, and shot toward the Green Cloud Mountain. Green Cloud Mountain. A 10,000-mile-long heavenly river surged in the void. The rapid river rumbled, and from time to time, fish jumped out of the water, flickering with colorful light. On both sides of the 10,000-mile-long heavenly river, there were green bamboos swaying with the wind, constantly emitting pleasant bamboo sounds. In the flourishing vegetation, all kinds of rare and strange beasts were playing, giving people a feeling of beauty. On the top of the mountain, there was an ancient Tongtian pine tree with luxuriant branches and leaves. The dark green leaves rustled, and its huge trunk could be encircled by 10 people. Under the shade of the tree, there were dozens of young people standing here. Some people were playing chess with black and white chess pieces, some were drinking and singing loudly, some were playing zither with their jade-like hands, and some were playing melodies that were moving and pleasing to the ear. Some had cold expressions and closed their eyes to rest, and some were even cultivating their own cultivation techniques that were overflowing with evil energy. Chapter 1232. There were many different kinds of terrifying auras. It was obvious that these people under the ancient heavenly pine were all spirit sons of the great sections. Each of them was known as a heaven's pride and was an extraordinary character in their own orthodoxy. When Yi Xian and the other three saw this scene, Li Jiwei and the other two sneered contemptuously. They did not put these people in their eyes at all, because most of them were weaker than them. It was not that Li Jiwei and the other two were arrogant, but as the spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, their starting point was much higher than the other great sections. Furthermore, the 10,000 Spirit Palace was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui, so how could the three of them take the spiritual sons of the other sects seriously? At this moment, Yi Xian's face was expressionless, but there was a trace of contempt in his eyes. In his opinion, whether it was Li Jiwei or these spiritual sons of the various sects, they were just a bunch of pretentious idiots. The so-called true experts did not need to pretend. As long as they appeared, they would be the most dazzling stars that people would look up to. This was a kind of aura and confidence. However, these so-called spiritual sons of the various sects were playing chess, drinking wine, singing, and playing music. They were all acting as if they were really unparalleled figures in the world. In Yi Xian's opinion, this was too ridiculous. To put it bluntly, these people were just putting on airs to make themselves look extraordinary. However, when Yi Xian and the other three appeared, these spiritual sons of the various sects did not stand up to welcome them. Obviously, they were proud of their status. Even if they were the spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, if they stood up to welcome them, it would be an action that would lower their status. There are really no opponents in this year's Heaven's Pride Grand Gathering. Li Jiwei smiled playfully. When she took a step forward, she turned into a shocking white light and shot towards the top of the mountain. Yi Xian and the other two followed behind. I've always heard that the 12 spiritual sons of the 10,000 Spirit Palace are unparalleled. Let me, Zhan Feiyu, experience how powerful the 4 spiritual sons are. When the 4 of them appeared on the top of the mountain, a cold and arrogant voice sounded. The Tongtian ancient pine tree was blooming with golden light, and a heaven-splitting technique was cast towards Yi Xian and the other 3. Boom! It shook the heavens and cracked the earth while space collapsed. Dazzling golden light covered the heavens and the earth and was about to drown Yi Xian's group of 4 in the next moment. Petty tricks, Lin Daosen said indifferently. He waved his sleeve, and it was as if the clouds in the sky were rolled up. The unparalleled great art of Heaven Splitter was sucked into his sleeve without the slightest trace of smoke or fire. But it wasn't over yet. I'll return it to you. Lin Daosen's sleeves danced in the air, and the Heaven Splitter that had just been sucked into his sleeve returned. With the sound of mountains and rivers exploding, a young man with a cold and arrogant expression staggered back. Fortunately, Azure Cloud Mountain was protected by the Heavenly Earth Grand Formation, otherwise, the entire Azure Cloud Mountain would have been obliterated by their attacks. The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace truly lives up to its name. Zhan Feiyu has learned a lot. Zhan Feiyu's face was as sharp as a knife. His originally arrogant expression immediately vanished. It was only because Lin Daosen's attack had caused his qi and blood to surge. He also truly felt how terrifying Lin Daosen's cultivation was. At the same time, dozens of spiritual sons from various sects stood up one after another and looked at Yi Xian and the other 3 with a solemn expression. The cultivation that Lin Daosen had just displayed simply made their hearts feel extremely heavy. The 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. It seems that today's events are indeed worthy of their reputation. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Although the voice wasn't loud and didn't contain any power, Yi Xian's heart trembled when he heard it because he was too familiar with this voice. It was as if he was walking in the sky, as if the clouds were moving. That white robe wasn't dazzling, but when he walked slowly towards Yi Xian and the other 3, his entire person seemed to have turned into the brightest star in the world, and everyone had to look up to him. His robe was as white as snow, and his demeanor was peerless. He was still the former Liu Bai, but with every step he took, this side of the world became silent, and only the sound of his footsteps could be heard. There was no heaven-dominating aura, no arrogant aura, and no suppressive might. However, just the elegant demeanor of that peerless white robe made everyone feel dizzy, and a great sense of inferiority arose in their hearts. Some people were born to be kings, and some people were born to be geniuses. Their every word and action could make people feel that they were extraordinary. Liu Bai was such a person. Although he didn't have the aura of a king, nor did he display any techniques, his appearance alone seemed to make this side of the world dim. What was an ancient genius? What was the only one in all of history? These words were originally as heavy as the heavens, but today, they were truly reflected on Liu Bai's body. An eternal look, an empty dream. When Yi Xian saw Liu Bai walking towards him step by step, his heart trembled to the extreme, and his eyes became absent-minded for an instant. That year, in the mortal world, there was no path to heaven and earth, and the immortal gate was not open. With his mortal body, he opened up a path to immortality. That year, he spared no effort, and his soul scattered, just to create the inverse immortal array diagram to help Yi Xian reach the great Tao of the Tongtian. In the end, he died and his Tao dissipated. That year, he created the 4 ultimate primal chaos array in the small 3 realms, which truly reflected his peerless talent. Some people might not be able to become close friends even if they knew each other for a lifetime, but some people only needed a glance to know each other for generations. Yi Xian's eyes were a little absent-minded, and he unconsciously walked forward. He wanted to reunite with Liu Bai, and even more wanted to ask him what Liu Bai had experienced after so many years. However, just as Yi Xian took a step forward, Li Jiwei's cold voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Little Jiu, what are you doing?" Yi Xian suddenly woke up, and his footsteps suddenly retreated. Then he lowered his eyebrows and did not speak or move, but no one noticed that a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He could not reunite with Liu Bai, the time was not right. This was not the 3 realms that he ruled, but the chaotic world. There were too many dangers lurking around him, and Yi Xian could only suppress his fluctuating emotions. "I'm Li Jiwei, greetings to Brother Bai." Li Jiwei was a very proud person, and he was the 2nd spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Wherever he went, he was the center of attention. However, when he saw Liu Bai in front of him, the pride in his bones disappeared, and there was a sense of inferiority in his heart, and he unconsciously lowered his posture. When Li Jiwei felt that his posture was inappropriate, it was too late for him to regret. This also startled him, but he did not show it on his face. Liu Bai directly ignored Li Jiwei and looked at Yi Xian and the other 3 people. However, when his gaze fell on Yi Xian, Liu Bai was slightly startled, because he felt that Yi Xian gave him a very familiar feeling. Chapter 12:33. I wonder which one of you is Yao Yueya? Liu Bai shifted his gaze away from Yi Xian and looked at Li Jiwei indifferently. To be honest, Liu Bai's attitude was not arrogant, but filled with indifference, as if he did not put Li Jiwei and the others in his eyes at all. If it was someone else, Li Jiwei and the others would definitely be furious. But for some reason, facing Liu Bai's question, Li Jiwei and the others did not get angry at all, as if they were inferior to Liu Bai. This feeling made Li Jiwei and the others extremely shocked. "I am Yao Yueya, greetings white-clothed Shensi." Yi Xian said calmly and cupped his hands towards Liu Bai. "You are Yao Yueya?" Liu Bai's gaze once again fell on Yi Xian, but this time, Yi Xian and Liu Bai's gazes met. Both of them suddenly became silent, and an oppressive atmosphere grew. At this moment, Liu Bai's brows were tightly knitted. He had called the Heaven's Pride banquet this time to see who this Yao Yueya who killed Yi Xian was. But what made him disappointed was that the person in front of him was only a 9 Heavens Saint King, and there was no powerful aura around him. Liu Bai did not believe that such a person could kill Yi Xian. Moreover, Liu Bai's mind was extremely shocked. He found that he could not hate Yao Yueya at all, and instead felt a kind of warmth in his heart. This feeling made him extremely shocked. Originally, according to Liu Bai's plan, when he saw Yao Yueya, he would immediately kill him and burn his soul in the underworld fire for eternity. Only then would he be able to appease the hatred in his heart. But now, when he met Yao Yueya's gaze, there was no killing intent in his heart. This simply made Liu Bai extremely shocked. "You are our guests. For spiritual sons, please take a seat." Lu Bai withdrew his gaze from Yi Xian and indifferently turned around to return to the main seat. Li Jiwei and the other two instantly sobered up. However, when the three of them looked at each other, they could see the shock in each other's eyes. What a good heaven-mending sex, divine child. This person is going to be a great enemy for us. In a bit, you guys will act according to my signal. Li Jiwei secretly transmitted her voice to Yi Xian and the other two. She immediately put away the contempt she had for Lu Bai and listed him as her #1 enemy. If I am not mistaken, this heaven-mending sex divine child can be ranked as one of the most powerful seeds. I never thought that the heaven-mending sect would have such a terrifying figure. I'm afraid only the first spiritual son can suppress him. Lin Daosen had the Dao accumulation battle constitution, so he was naturally very sensitive to auras. He didn't care about Li Jiwei's face at all and directly made a bold judgment. The first spiritual son has already stepped into the yin-yang realm for many years, but I see that Lu Bai is also in the creation realm like us. If he also steps into the yin-yang realm, I wonder who is stronger between him and the first spiritual son. Nangong Xian, said in a trembling voice. At this moment, Li Jiwei's face was gloomy. He had always regarded the first spiritual son as his goal, but today, when he saw Lu Bai, he actually felt ashamed, which was simply unacceptable. Li Jiwei was extremely sure that even the first spiritual son didn't make him feel this way, but today, in front of Lu Bai, he actually felt extremely inferior. Second brother, can you see what kind of battle constitution he has? Li Jiwei's cultivation was the highest among the four, so Nangong Xian transmitted her voice to him to ask. I can't see it. His body is filled with a kind of spiritual qi, but I guess it's some kind of terrifying mutated battle constitution. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to give us so much pressure, Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. But the three of you don't have to worry. I'm only one step away from stepping into the yin-yang realm. Even if he has a mutated battle constitution, he may not be my opponent. I will definitely take the first place in this genius banquet, Li Jiwei whispered coldly. However, Li Jiwei didn't realize that his tone was not so confident at this moment, and was just cheering himself up. Lu Bai was a godlike person. He didn't need to release any power. Just by standing there, he made everyone look up to him, and this was the terror of the chaotic spirit body. The chaotic spirit body, the darling of the chaotic universe, was also known as the Son of Chaos. It had always been a legend and had never appeared in the 10 Great Yuans. The Son of Chaos. This title was too heavy, and it could simply crush the eternal sky. Li Jiwei and the other two were indeed very powerful among the spiritual sons, but in front of Lu Bai, they were just ants on the ground. How could they compare with Lu Bai, a dazzling star? Today, Bai held the genius banquet to get to know all of you. Let me toast you with this cup of wine. Lu Bai sat high in the main seat, and a maid beside him poured wine for him. When he raised the wine cup to toast the spiritual sons present, everyone stood up one after another. When a person's aura was so strong that it could suppress everyone, this person was worthy of being a king. At this moment, Lu Bai was such a person. Yi Xian quietly looked at Lu Bai's peerless demeanor, and there was a great sense of relief in his eyes. Lu Bai was no longer a weak person in the past. At this moment, his demeanor was dazzling, and he really showed the charm that a strong person should have. Yi Xian was a little jealous, but more than that, he was happy. He was very happy that Lu Bai was growing rapidly and even surpassed him. However, Yi Xian didn't feel inferior because he was also working hard and had been practicing hard. It was just that his path was different from Lu Bai's. Lu Bai was destined to be a person who surpassed all others. His light would shine on the whole chaotic world, and Yi Xian was hiding in the dark, and one day he would amaze the world. Yi Xian was hiding his strength and biding his time. He was constantly accumulating his own foundation. He didn't have Lu Bai's eternal aptitude, but he had a heart that would never admit defeat. He had already created his own method and Dao, and even created the first level of the buried sky technique. As an incarnation, he cultivated the origin of star technique and the boundless secular technique, and he himself was also cultivating the power of time and space and the power of nirvana. When he really erupted, Yi Xian believed that he wouldn't fall behind Lu Bai. Haha. Suddenly, a wild laughter came from the distant sky. The sky was as dark as ink, and a black light fell to the ground like a star. The terrifying aura that covered the sky and earth rumbled. I heard that the heaven-mending sect has a divine son, who is unparalleled in the world, and is the strongest seed. Today, I see that the rumors are true. I wonder if the divine son dares to drink with me? Boom. Heaven and earth were devoured, and tens of thousands of techniques were immersed in it. A white-haired youth suddenly appeared, and the boundless dark light around him seemed to want to devour everything. Just a glance was enough to make one's heart palpitate. Heaven-devouring demonic palace? When the white-haired youth appeared, Li Jiwei muttered in shock. This also made Yi Xian frown, and he looked at the newcomer. White hair, black clothes, and a jade-like face. His clothes fluttered in the wind. This person had a smile on his face, and he was looking at Lu Bai. An extremely terrifying black light erupted from his body, and even the surrounding space was faintly collapsing. Who are you? Lu Bai asked indifferently. Heaven-devouring demonic palace, Earth Demon Luo, the white-haired man said coldly. When the white-haired man announced himself, it immediately caused a huge commotion, and a sense of panic suddenly grew in this world. If there was one of the 10 strongest orthodoxies that people feared the most, it would definitely be the heaven-devouring demonic palace. The heaven-devouring demonic palace controlled the 7th Eon, and the 7th Eon was a dark and chaotic era. Even if it was the 10th Eon, the dark era of the 7th Eon would make people's hearts tremble. A sea of blood flowed, and white bones piled up like mountains. The heaven-devouring demonic master devoured the heavens and earth, and countless creatures died in his hands. That extremely terrifying heaven-devouring technique was the nightmare of all creatures in the chaos. Today, someone from the heaven-devouring demonic palace actually appeared here. How could this not make the spiritual sons of various sects panic? Chapter 12:34. Heaven and earth fell into silence. The arrival of someone from the devouring demonic palace was something that no one had expected. It was rare for the successors of the 9 great orthodoxies to appear, let alone participate in this so-called Sky Pride's grand gathering. So it's a friend from the devouring demonic palace. Greetings, Bai. Lu Bai cupped his fists slightly with a calm expression. He didn't seem nervous at all because Earth Demon Luo was from the devouring demonic palace. Instead, he looked at him calmly. However, the calmer Lu Bai appeared, the more Earth Demon Luo looked at Lu Bai. This was because Lu Bai gave him a huge pressure. Brother Lu, let's have a drink together. Earth Demon Luo smiled. A cup of wine appeared in his hand and he threw it at Lu Bai. Boom. The wine cup broke through the air and the cries of ghosts and deities sounded. The entire green cloud mountains suddenly darkened. The void was constantly exploding and regenerating. Earth Demon Luo's attack alone was enough to display a terrifying momentum. Buzz. Lu Bai's expression was calm. He pointed his finger and the wine cup that Earth Demon Luo threw stopped in front of him. The dark sky suddenly became clear again. Lu Bai raised the wine cup and entered the room with his head held high. He didn't release any terrifying aura from the beginning. However, this casual action made Earth Demon Luo's expression change slightly. He was at the 3rd stage of the creation realm and possessed the extremely terrifying devouring energy battle physique. He had used 60% of his cultivation in the previous attack, but it was easily blocked by Lu Bai. This made him feel extremely depressed. A supreme seed is indeed a supreme seed. You really live up to your reputation today. Earth Demon Luo regained his composure and stood proudly with his hands behind his back. The wine has been drunk. Please take a seat, my friend. Lu Bai's white robe was otherworldly and untainted by the world. He spoke calmly from the beginning to the end. You're just a bunch of useless people. How dare you sit with me? Earth Demon Luo sneered and looked at Lu Bai again. A fiery look flashed across his eyes. Contempt, disdain, and arrogance. This was the attitude displayed by Earth Demon Luo. He completely looked down on the so-called spiritual sons of various sections. The spiritual children from the various sects were furious, But they didn't dare to say anything because Earth Demon Luo was backed by the Heaven-Devouring Devil Palace. Furthermore, the Heaven-Devouring Devil Palace's cultivation technique was extremely terrifying. It was able to devour other people's cultivation to increase their own cultivation. No one was willing to fight with Earth Demon Luo. However, I would like to ask the white-robed Shensi for advice. Boom. Earth Demon Luo Wutabu let out an unbridled laugh. Streaks of terrifying black light burst forth from his surroundings. Faintly discernible spatial cracks appeared inch by inch, as though they were about to distort and shatter this part of the world. Spirit-devouring technique. At the banquet, Li Jiwei solemnly said, looking at Earth Demon Luo with dread. What is the spirit-devouring technique? Yi Xian asked Li Jiwei while looking at Earth Demon Luo. The Heaven-Devouring Demon Palace is in charge of the 7th Yuan Hui. The Heaven-Devouring Demon Lord created the Heaven-Devouring Demon Scripture. This supreme cultivation method can devour everything to improve oneself. However, not everyone can cultivate this supreme cultivation method. Therefore, the Heaven-Devouring Demon Lord simplified the Heaven-Devouring Demon Scripture, which led to the birth of the Spirit-Devouring Technique, Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. You mean, this spirit-devouring technique can devour the cultivation of others? Yi Xian's eyes moved because his tribulation transcender technique had the same effect. No. Li Jiwei slowly shook her head and said, yes, the spirit-devouring technique can indeed devour the cultivation of others. However, it can only devour a small part of it. Most of it can only be expelled from the body because the spirit-devouring technique is only a simplified version of the Heaven-Devouring Demon Scripture. It can't achieve the supreme effect of the Heaven-Devouring Demon Scripture. However, this is already very terrifying. In this situation, the opponent will become weaker and weaker, while the people of the Heaven-Devouring Demon Palace will become stronger and stronger. I'm afraid this heaven-mending sect's divine son will be in trouble, Li Jiwei said in a deep voice. Hearing Li Jiwei's explanation, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and quietly sized up Earth Demon Luo in the field. He was also feeling the devouring aura he was releasing. Different, completely different. Yi Xian could be said to have a very good understanding of the spirit-devouring technique because he himself cultivated the tribulation transcender technique. This was a heaven-defying technique that could devour the cultivation of others to nourish oneself. At this moment, the spirit-devouring technique that Earth Demon Luo was using gave off an extremely evil feeling. This cultivation method was full of blood and bad luck. It couldn't be compared to the tribulation transcender technique at all. Moreover, the tribulation transcender technique devoured a person's blood and soul essence, tempering it into the most original power for oneself to absorb. There was no risk of cultivation deviation at all. At this moment, Yi Xian could feel that the spirit-devouring technique that Earth Demon Luo cultivated was too inferior compared to the tribulation transcender technique. Although it was called the spirit-devouring technique, it was actually just a kind of evil technique. Presumably, it also had great side effects. Lu Bai, don't let me down. Rumble. The void shook as a black light soared into the sky. Earth Demon Luo launched the spirit-devouring technique and rushed towards Lu Bai. His palms and fingers moved up and down, bringing along the spirit-devouring technique. The black light that exploded the world was too terrifying. The surrounding vegetation instantly withered and lost their original vitality. Be careful! Yi Xian's complexion changed slightly, and he unconsciously reminded Lu Bai. One must know that Yi Xian was very familiar with the spirit-devouring technique. Although the spirit-devouring technique was just SOSO in his opinion, this was the first time Lu Bai was facing such a terrifying technique. He was afraid that Lu Bai would suffer a big loss. At this moment, Lu Bai stood with his hands clasped behind his back. Facing Earth Demon Luo's attack, there was no change in his expression. Instead, Yi Xian's reminder made him look sideways at Yi Xian with a touch of doubt in his eyes. Origin extinguishing finger. Boom! Earth Demon Luo pointed his finger. A wisp of black light pierced through the sky, instantly extinguishing the vitality in all directions, and was about to touch Lu Bai's glabella. Mountain moving! Lu Bai frowned. His white robe fluttered slightly as he softly spat out a word. He slowly raised his jade finger and gently pointed it forward. Sweet. It was as if the golden sun and winter snow had melted upon contact. The two people's fingers collided, and an extremely terrifying light was emitted. It was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Bang! The world roared and the void exploded. Earth Demon Luo's figure was seen retreating. On the other hand, Lu Bai only took 3 steps back, and there was no change in his expression. Again! Earth Demon Luo laughed wantonly as if he had met an opponent who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. His spirit-devouring technique was pushed to the extreme, and the world's aura rolled towards him, turning the surrounding vegetation into ashes. Star-devouring technique. Earth Demon Luo laughed wildly. His body swelled to the extreme as if he had turned into an inflated ball. His terrifying hands brought along a sky full of black light as he violently slapped at Lu Bai. Universe reversal. Lu Bai's expression was calm. His 5 fingers collided with Earth Demon Luo's attack. The 2 palms suddenly collided, and they were in an extremely stalemate. Spirit-devouring technique. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying thing happened. Earth Demon Luo burst out with an extremely terrifying black light. It was as if his whole body had turned into a black hole, and an aura that could devour everything erupted. Chapter 12:35. Buzz. The black light wreaked havoc and instantly wrapped around Lu Bai's body. The spiritual light on his body instantly dimmed, and his cultivation rushed toward Earth Demon Luo. The art of spirit devouring is indeed terrifying. This heaven-mending sex godchild is finished. Lin Daosen let out a long sigh as if he could already see Lu Bai's tragic death. Bang! Suddenly, Yi Xian stood up and took a step forward with his right foot. His face was as cold as the 9 heavens, and a trace of nirvana energy had already appeared in his palm. Yi Xian naturally couldn't sit by and watch Lu Bai suffer a great calamity. At this moment, he didn't care if his identity would be exposed because he absolutely couldn't watch Lu Bai die in front of him. Little 9, what are you doing? Li Jiwei felt that Yi Xian's aura was not right, which made her look at Yi Xian in confusion. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was staring at Earth Demon Luo at this moment, treating Li Jiwei as air. The nirvana energy in his palm was about to materialize, and he was about to attack Earth Demon Luo in the next moment. The great Tao is like the heavens. Suddenly, before Yi Xian could make a move, Lu Bai's voice resounded in all directions. An extremely terrifying spiritual light burst out from his body, accompanied by a loud bang. Boom! Lu Bai's body shook, and a trace of chaotic spiritual light flashed across his eyes. He merely struck out with his palm, and Earth Demon Luo was sent flying. The so-called art of spirit devouring had no effect on him. Earth Demon Luo's face flushed red, and his throat rolled as if he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood. However, in the next moment, his complexion returned to normal as if nothing had happened. The heaven-mending sex godchild is indeed worthy of his reputation. Today, Earth Demon Luo has learned a lot. When the Heavens Pride gathering begins, we will have a showdown. Earth Demon Luo left as soon as he said that. His entire body transformed into a rainbow as he shot away. However, a drop of blood quietly fell from the sky, and this scene was coincidentally seen by Yi Xian. A trace of a smile rose from the depths of his eyes. Who would have thought that the white-robed brothers' cultivation would be so terrifying? Even the people from the heaven-devouring Devil Palace had suffered a great loss in his hands. Yi Xian sighed inwardly. He knew that he had been too worried, so he instantly retracted his aura and sat back down. Little 9, what happened to you just now? Nangong Xian asked with a frown. It's nothing. It's just that watching the two of them fight made me feel a little emotional. Yi Xian said in a low voice. The few of them nodded in agreement with Yi Xian's explanation. They were also amazed by the battle that they had just witnessed. They did not expect Lu Bai to be able to neutralize the spirit-devouring technique in the end. Second brother, if you were to face one of them just now, would you have the confidence to win? Nangong Xian probed Li Jiwei. That Earth Mara Luo has the devouring energy battle physique. From what I can see, his cultivation is already at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. Although he has the spirit-devouring technique, I have an 80% chance of defeating him. After all, I have also cultivated the 10,000 spirits immortal scripture. He has an advantage over me, Li Jiwei said indifferently. However, he paused slightly and looked at Lu Bai with a slightly heavy gaze. However, I can't see through this heaven-mending sect's divine son's cultivation, and I can't see what kind of battle physique he has. Only by fighting a real battle can we know who is stronger. Li Jiwei said in a heavy tone. Sigh. Lin Daosan sighed and said, if the first spiritual son is here, he can definitely suppress him. If the 3 of us can't come out on top in this prodigy's banquet, I'm afraid that it will damage the reputation of the 10,000 spirits' heavenly palace. You too can rest assured. My Jiwei battle physique can see through everything. This Lu Bai is at most at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. The highest cultivation technique he cultivates is the heaven-mending technique. How can it be compared to my 10,000 spirits immortal scripture? Li Jiwei said coldly. The 3 of them discussed in a low voice. Obviously, they were extremely afraid of Lu Bai and had no confidence in defeating him. At this moment, Yi Xian was silent. He did not take the discussion of the 3 to heart. He just quietly looked at Lu Bai and a smile appeared on his face. At the same time, Lu Bai seemed to have sensed something and once again looked towards Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian's gaze had long since moved away and didn't meet Lu Bai's gaze. This person? Looking at Yi Xian, who was sitting cross-legged in the distance, Lu Bai murmured. He could not feel any hatred in his heart at all. Instead, he felt that Yi Xian gave him a familiar feeling. Did he really kill Brother Yi? Lu Bai frowned slightly. He was already a little uncertain in his heart. This feeling made him very confused. In the end, Lu Bai returned to the main seat and the prodigy's banquet continued. They toasted each other and talked about everything under the sun. When Lu Bai showed his peerless demeanor, many other spiritual sons of the great sects came to befriend him. Even Li Jiwei and the other 2 subconsciously went to befriend Lu Bai. Yi Xian silently sat in the corner and watched all this. He also felt a sense of warmth in his heart. He was dazzling and unparalleled. He was a peerless genius. He was destined to be dazzling in his life. He would compose his peerless movement in the chaotic world and become an existence that all living beings in the chaotic world looked up to. Yi Xian wanted to acknowledge him, but he really couldn't, nor could he. Yi Xian was very clear about his situation. He had too many secrets. Not to mention those supreme powers, just the heaven-shattering void cauldron alone was a potential threat to him. Lu Bai had his own path to walk. He was destined to be the center of attention. Along the way, he had countless halos on him. Moreover, he had the heaven-mending sect to protect him. He would eventually become the strongest existence in the history. However, Yi Xian could not. If he acknowledged Lu Bai, there would be too many twists and turns, and he would definitely be implicated. To be able to watch Lu Bai grow all the way, this might be the best choice for Yi Xian. He also believed that he would forge ahead, and when he was truly fearless, there would be a day when they would acknowledge each other. The prodigy's banquet finally ended. The spiritual sons of the various sects also bid farewell and left. Thank you for your hospitality, Divine Son. The 4 of us will take our leave now. We will see you again at the prodigy's banquet. At that time, I would like to ask for your guidance. Li Jiwei cupped her hands and bowed to Lu Bai. Obviously, she was ready to leave. 9th spiritual son, please wait. Suddenly, Lu Bai calmly said. This also startled Li Jiwei and the other 2. They looked at Yi Xian in astonishment, not knowing why Lu Bai stopped Yi Xian. I wonder what Divine Son wants to teach me? Yi Xian's mind was shaken, but his expression did not change. He pretended to be puzzled as he looked at Lu Bai. In the past, I had an old friend who looked very similar to you. Today, after meeting you, I felt like an old friend at first sight. I even thought of this old friend. I wonder if you are willing to be friends with me? Lu Bai said with a smile. However, his eyes were slightly flickering. He was carefully observing Yi Xian's aura and changes in expression, hoping to find some clues. Chapter 12:36. At the peak of Yun Mountain, the cold wind was howling. Li Jiwei and the others had already left. Only Yi Xian and Lu Bai were left staring at each other. An indescribable emotion was brewing between them. Where is Brother Lu's old friend? Yi Xian seemed calm, but his heart was in turmoil. He's dead. He was killed by someone. Lu Bai stood against the wind as he lightly spat out these words. However, his gaze was fixed on Yi Xian the entire time, never leaving him for even half a moment. Oh! Yi Xian pretended to sigh and said, "Who killed him?" Lu Bai frowned as he looked at Yi Xian's puzzled expression. Could it be that the person in front of him really wasn't Yi Xian? Ever since Yi Xian appeared, Lu Bai felt a sense of familiarity with Yi Xian. This feeling came out of nowhere and surprised Lu Bai. He even used his Dharma eye to peek at Yi Xian's real body. Unfortunately, the other party didn't use any illusion techniques. This caused Lu Bai to be bewildered. Could it be that this person in front of him really killed Yi Xian? Lu Bai was an extremely intelligent person. He'd always suspected that Yi Xian might still be alive, but now he was truly suspicious of his own deduction. He'd lost the last bit of good impression he had of the person in front of him. A ruthless aura arose in his heart, and a red light flashed across his eyes. You once killed someone in the Nandu Great region. This person was my old friend. I don't know if you still remember. Lu Bai's voice gradually turned cold. I've killed many people in my life. I wonder which one the godchild is talking about? Yi Xian pretended to be calm. Yi Xian. Lu Bai's face was slightly cold as he slowly spat out these two words. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and even the surrounding temperature suddenly dropped. The blood-red light in his eyes couldn't be denser, and his whole person became somewhat different from before. This kind of strange change should not have happened to Lu Bai, because Lu Bai had always been elegant and refined, but now his condition was extremely strange. That's right. I was the one who killed him, but I didn't expect him to be a friend of the god's child, Yi Xian admitted frankly, but his eyes were full of bitterness. He didn't notice Lu Bai's abnormality. Yi Xian didn't want to admit it, but if he didn't admit it, the rumors he made up would fall apart, so he had no choice but to admit it. A life for a life, and a debt must be repaid. Since you were the one who killed my old friend, you will die here today. Rumble. Tongtian's voice resounded in all directions. Lu Bai's voice reverberated in all directions, and an extremely terrifying murderous intent enveloped Yi Xian. At this moment, Lu Bai's black hair fluttered wildly in the wind, and a murderous aura lingered in the universe. He finally suppressed the feeling of closeness to Yi Xian, and revealed the peerless murderous intent that he had suppressed for a long time. The murderous aura howled in the sky, and the spiritual light skyrocketed. An earth-shattering pressure fell on Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian's expression didn't change, but his heart was bitter to the extreme. To fight or not to fight? A choice was placed in front of Yi Xian, and it made him frown. If they fought, it would be a battle of life and death. Lu Bai already had hatred in his heart, so he would definitely not hold back. Yi Xian had scruples in his heart, so he would definitely not use his full strength. Stop! Suddenly, at this critical moment, an ancient voice rang out. This made Lu Bai's expression change, and Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. He is a member of the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace. If you kill him now, it will definitely cause a conflict between the two sections. Wait until the prodigy gathering begins, then you will have your revenge. Sect Master Bu Tian's voice rumbled. Lu Bai spat out a mouthful of turbid air, and the spiritual light around him dissipated. He glanced at Yi Xian indifferently, then slowly walked into the distance. However, his indifferent words rang in Yi Xian's ears. Yao Yueya, I will wait for you at the prodigy gathering. Your life can only be mine. Yi Xian's expression abruptly changed as he looked at Lu Bai's departing figure and the evil aura on his body. This was because he realized that he'd miscalculated something. He realized that when Lu Bai had hatred in his heart, his entire person was already in a state of paranoia, giving him an extremely unfamiliar feeling. Lu Bai was once a rare genius of the world, but now he had lost his spirituality. Yi Xian finally realized the seriousness of the problem. He has turned into a demon. Suddenly, Gai Tianyuan's voice echoed in Yi Xian's ears, and a long sigh came from his mouth. Turned into a demon? Yi Xian whispered in shock. The so-called turning into a demon does not mean that he has fallen into a demon's path, but that his soul has been distorted and he has lost his original self. If this continues, his personality will change greatly, and he will become greedy for life and bloodthirsty. Gai Tianyuan explained in a deep voice. Whoever started the trouble should end it. If you want to save him, the problem lies with you. Gai Tianyuan said. Me? Yi Xian whispered in a daze, as if he had understood something at this moment. Hatred could change a person. Yi Xian did not think that the news of his death would cause Lu Bai to become like this. It seemed that hiding his identity was a big mistake, and he had made a fool of himself. How can I help him regain his original self? Yi Xian sincerely asked Gai Tianyuan for guidance. He knows of your death, and his heart is filled with hatred. Right now, he is in a state of bedevilment. First, you need to expel the evil aura in his chest, then tell him your true identity. Only then can you undo the knot in his heart and let him return to his original state of mind, Gai Tianyuan explained. Hearing Gai Tianyuan's words, Yi Xian gravely nodded, but he was suddenly startled, as if he had thought of something at this moment. Since you can see that he is in a demonic state, why does Sect Master Bu Tian allow him to continue developing like this? Yi Xian's eyes turned cold. Heh! Gai Tianyuan sneered. Sect Master Bu Tian, that old geezer, only wants to raise a peerless figure. The so-called demonic state only changes one's nature, and it does not hinder one's cultivation at all. If I'm not wrong, Sect Master Bu Tian only wants your friend to quickly cultivate and strengthen himself. I see. Yi Xian's expression darkened after hearing Gai Tianyuan's explanation. He was very glad that he had come to this prodigy gathering and discovered something wrong with Lu Bai early on. If the two of them had met in the future, Lu Bai would have definitely lost his original nature and become a tyrant who only knew how to kill. Killing was only a means to Yi Xian. He did not care about these things, but Yi Xian would not let killing control his nature. At this moment, the evil in Lu Bai's chest had already affected him. This was a great danger. How do I remove the evil in his chest? Yi Xian asked Gai Tianyuan again. This? Gai Tianyuan's voice was hesitant, as if he had something hard to say. Tell me, Yi Xian coldly growled, not giving Gai Tianyuan any time to think. Chapter 1237. The Art of Devouring. Don't you have an art of devouring? As long as you can devour the evil qi in his body and help him undo the knot in his heart, he will be able to recover. However, I must remind you that if you want to devour the evil qi in his body, you must first fight with him. Only then will you have the chance to devour the evil qi in his body. Moreover, if this evil qi enters your body, it will most likely distort your nature. You must consider this carefully. Moreover, this is only one of the reasons. If you want to fight with him, you must participate in this Heaven's Pride gathering. When you use the art of devouring, it will definitely attract the attention of all parties. How will you explain your own art of devouring? This will put you in danger of exposing your identity. You must consider this carefully. Gai Tianyuan warned in a deep voice. I understand. Yi Xian clenched his fists tightly. A trace of fierceness flashed across his eyes. No matter if he was exposed or not, he could not let Lu Bai be consigned to eternal damnation. Lu Bai was his best friend, and they were as close as brothers. Because of him, Lu Bai became a demon. Even if he became the enemy of the entire world, he must save Lu Bai. However, if he wanted Lu Bai to recover, Yi Xian knew that he must defeat all his enemies in the Heaven's Pride gathering. Only then would he have the chance to fight with Lu Bai and devour the evil qi in his chest. Time flew by, and 10 years passed in a blink of an eye. The Heaven's Pride gathering finally began 10 years later. During these 10 years, Yi Xian locked himself in his room. No one knew what he was doing, but the aura that occasionally leaked out was extremely frightening. It was as if the war drums of the 9 heavens were beating. It was as if the heavens and earth were trembling. One after another, the sound of the drums shook the heavens, signifying that the Heaven's Pride gathering had officially begun. The 4 great arenas spanned across the heaven and earth. The sky was vast and boundless. The spiritual sons of various sects sat cross-legged in the sky. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion, because this would be the battle that would make them famous. The Heaven's Pride gathering would decide each person's opponent by drawing lots. Coincidentally, there were 64 spiritual sons from various sections. In the end, the number 1 of the Heaven's Pride gathering would be decided. As the organizer of this Heaven's Pride gathering, the Heaven-Mending sect even set up a chaotic divine weapon and a heaven-mending pill as the winner's rewards. Little brother, are you really going to participate in the Tianjiao Grand Gathering? On the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace's side, Violet Spirit frowned slightly as she looked worriedly at Yi Xian. She simply could not understand why Yi Xian had changed his mind at the last moment when he had clearly said that he would not participate in this gathering. In the struggle for the Great Tao, if you don't advance, you'll fall behind. If you want to survive in this chaotic world, you naturally have to move forward bravely. How can you be afraid of the slightest thing? Yi Xian said indifferently. Little brother, you? Violet's spirit was stunned. She realized that Yi Xian seemed to have changed into a different person. His state today was completely different from before, and an extremely strange feeling rose in her heart. What Ziling didn't know was that Yi Xian was the real Yi Xian at this moment. Everything he had displayed before was just a disguise. When Yi Xian put the matter of his identity being exposed to the back of his mind, he had already returned to his original state. Moreover, his heart was filled with pain because of what had happened to Lu Bai. Why would he deliberately pretend to be himself? Perhaps after the Tianjiao Grand Gathering ended, he would have to flee to the ends of the world. There would be no need for him to disguise himself anymore. He would truly have to wander between life and death. Little Gio, your tone is a little too arrogant. I advise you not to willfully enter the stage. Otherwise, you will damage the reputation of the 10,000 Spirit Sky Palace. Li Jiwei frowned and reprimanded him slightly. Take care of yourself. If you die in the Tianjiao Grand Gathering, I'm afraid no one will be willing to collect your corpse, Yi Xian said indifferently. Little Jiu Yu? Li Jiwei was stunned. He never thought that Yi Xian would dare to speak to him like this. The others were also shocked. They did not know what had happened to Yi Xian to offend Li Jiwei like this. Let the drawing of lots begin. Before Li Jiwei could say anything, a deep voice rang out. The spiritual sons of various sects went up to the stage and began to draw lots. Yi Xian took a step forward and directly appeared on the stage to draw lots. Looking at Yi Xian's back, Li Jiwei's face was gloomy. Then he sneered at Violet Spirit and said, "It seems that little Gio has grown up. You don't even care about my words. It seems that sage emissary Violet Spirit has a good brother." "Umph." Violet Spirit coldly snorted, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. Today, Yi Xian was extremely strange. What had happened to him? "Let's go." Li Jiwei called Lin Daosan and Nangong Xian. The 3 of them turned into flowing lights and arrived on the stage to draw lots. Soon, the drawing of lots was over. Everyone was assigned to their first opponent. "Little brother, who is your opponent?" Violet Spirit was worried that Yi Xian had a problem and hurriedly went forward to ask him. Zhang Lin of the Heaven Mending sect? When Violet Spirit saw Yi Xian's opponent, she frowned slightly and a hint of worry flashed across her eyes. "So it's him?" Li Jiwei sneered. If he remembered correctly, when they first came to the Heaven Mending sect, one of the spiritual sons had provoked Yi Xian and wanted to fight with Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian rejected him. This made the lord of the heavenly clan extremely disappointed in Yi Xian and caused everyone to ridicule Yi Xian. "Little brother, this person has the 3-wood battle body and his cultivation is at the peak of the 9 heavens Saint King realm. If you are not his opponent, it's still not too late to give up now," Violet Spirit hurriedly advised. Zhang Lin was nothing in the eyes of Violet Spirit and the others, but to Yi Xian he was an extremely powerful opponent. How could Violet Spirit not be worried for Yi Xian? Unfortunately, Yi Xian was indifferent and only sat cross-legged in the void. At this moment, his eyes were slightly closed as if he was resting. He did not answer Violet Spirit's question at all. Arrogant and conceited. You will suffer later. Li Jiwei sneered. The lord of the heavenly clan, who had been resting with his eyes closed, glanced at Yi Xian, then shook his head and closed his eyes again. He did not want Yi Xian to fight. After all, Yi Xian was only a 9 heavens Saint King realm. In this place where geniuses of various sects gathered, Yi Xian was simply not worthy of being on the stage. But with Violet Spirit here, the lord of the heavenly clan could not refuse, so he turned a blind eye to Yi Xian. The first round, Heaven Mending Sects Wang Chong vs 10,000 Spirit Palaces Nangong Xian. The second round, Yunlan Sects Yi Fian vs Yunshui Nations Meng Tianlei. The third round, Celestial Sects Li Jiao vs Heaven Mending Sects Lu Bai. The fourth round, Heaven Mending Sects Zhang Lin vs 10,000 Spirit Palaces Yao Yuya. Suddenly, the rumbling of drums came from the 4 arenas, and the names of the participants were announced. Fourth sister, end this quickly. Don't embarrass our 10,000 Spirit Palace, Li Jiwei said softly. Little brother, you have to be careful. Violet Spirit said worriedly. Chapter 12:38. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He got up from the void and stepped onto the 4th arena. He stood there with his hands behind his back, not saying a word or moving. At the same time, the other 3 arenas also had spiritual sons from various sections. Lu Bai was on the 3rd arena. When he saw Yi Xian, a cold light flashed across his eyes. A spiritual light flashed across the sky and quietly appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was Zhang Lin from the Heaven Mending Sect. At this moment, he was looking at Yi Xian with a disdainful look. I really didn't expect my first opponent to be you. Although you are the 9th spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, you are still no match for me, Zhang Lin said contemptuously. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't seem to hear Zhang Lin's words. He looked indifferently at Lu Bai's arena and frowned slightly. Spiritual light covering your body and evil aura surrounding you. Brother Bai, don't worry. I will definitely restore your original heart. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. But, are you afraid? Seeing that Yi Xian didn't say a word, Zhang Lin sneered proudly. He realized that Yi Xian was afraid of him. After all, when they were in the Greenwood Pavilion, Yi Xian showed a timid look and didn't dare to fight with him at all. 3 war drums sounded, indicating the start of the battle. In an instant, the other 3 arenas lit up with various terrifying lights. The sound of explosions could be heard. Obviously, an intense battle had begun. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Bai and Nangong Xian's arenas. After all, Lu Bai and Nangong Xian were the focus of these 4 battles. As for Yi Xian's 4th arena, no one paid attention to it. To put it bluntly, the battle between 2 9 Heaven Saint Kings was not as exciting as the battle between Lu Bai and the others. Naturally, it wouldn't attract everyone's attention. Sure enough, in just an instant, Lu Bai sent his opponent flying out of the arena with a single strike. On the other side, Nangong Xian followed closely behind and sent her opponent flying as well. There was no suspense in their victory, and the referee immediately rang the bell, announcing Lu Bai and the others' victory. However, it was also at this moment that a person walked down from the 4th arena. The referee on the arena was like a clay puppet, not saying a word or moving. It was as if his soul had left his body. However, his body was trembling slightly, as if he had seen something that made him extremely terrified. The strangest thing was that there was a bloody mist floating in the air above the 4th stage. The thick smell of blood was nauseating, and the person who walked down the stage was none other than Yi Xian. T-10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's 9th Spirit Sun wins. The elder on the arena immediately woke up and roared out with a trembling voice. However, he immediately released a streak of spiritual light, immediately drawing the attention of everyone from the Heaven Mending Sect. Zhang Lin is dead? How did he die? Who killed him? Several elders of the Heaven Mending Sect shot over. When they saw the bloody mist that was about to dissipate, they were completely stunned. Zhang Lin was one of the heaven-mending sect's spirit sons. Although he wasn't one of the best, his cultivation was definitely not weak. How could he have died? What a vicious method. He actually dared to kill my heaven-mending sect's spirit son? An elder of the heaven-mending sect angrily roared. He suddenly looked at Yi Xian's departing figure, and an extremely terrifying killing intent appeared in his eyes. Unfortunately, the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace's power was too great. Moreover, in the prodigy gathering, life and death were determined by fate. These elders could only feel resentment in their hearts and didn't dare to make a move against Yi Xian. How did he kill Zhang Lin? Elder Bu Tian hatefully looked at the referee. Unfortunately, the referee was completely stunned and couldn't answer Elder Bu Tian's question. This was because even he didn't clearly see how Zhang Lin had died. He only saw Zhang Lin's sinister smile as he released a powerful technique at Yi Xian. Then, a blinding light made him close his eyes. When he opened them again, Zhang Lin had already exploded into a bloody mist, and Yi Xian had already walked off the arena. On the other side, when Yi Xian returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's camp, Elder Bu Tian, Violet Spirit, and the others heard the news of Yi Xian's victory. The two of them looked at Yi Xian in shock. They simply couldn't believe their ears. Little brother, you won? Violet Spirit looked at Yi Xian with shock. She even looked towards the fourth arena, but she didn't see Zhang Lin's figure. She only saw several heaven-mending sect elders glaring at them. Yi Xian nodded faintly. He then sat cross-legged in the void again and closed his eyes to rest. Even the Lord of Heavenly Palace looked at Yi Xian in shock. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Yi Xian's victory didn't surprise the Lord of Heavenly Palace. After all, Yi Xian was also a 9-heaven Saint King. It wasn't strange for him to win. What really shocked the Lord of Heavenly Palace was that Yi Xian defeated Zhang Lin too quickly. Lu Bai and Nangong Xian were still behind him. Lord, the elders of Heaven Mending Sect sent a message saying that Zhang Lin has been killed by 9th brother. Suddenly, Lin Daosen walked over quickly. He looked at Yi Xian in surprise and then bowed to the Lord of Heavenly Palace to report. The Lord of Heavenly Palace's expression changed drastically. Even Violet Spirit was extremely stunned. She simply couldn't believe her ears. The three of them looked at Yi Xian with extreme shock. Haha. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from afar. The Greenwood Pavilion Master walked over in the air. He first cupped his hands to the Lord of Heavenly Palace, and then looked at Yi Xian with a cold face. Brother Heavenly Palace, you and I have been friends for many years, but aren't you hiding too deeply? The Greenwood Pavilion Master said with a fake smile. Brother Greenwood, what do you mean? The Lord of Heavenly Palace frowned when he saw that the Greenwood Pavilion Master obviously didn't come with good intentions. What do I mean? The Greenwood Pavilion Master's eyebrows twitched. He suppressed the anger in his heart and sneered, the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. My heaven-mending sect can't afford to offend you, but your 9th spirit son is too cruel. I have nothing to say about him hiding his cultivation, but isn't it a little too much to kill my spirit son with a single blow? The Lord of Heavenly Palace's expression changed. He suddenly looked at Yi Xian, only to find that Yi Xian's eyes were slightly closed and he didn't say anything. It was as if this matter had nothing to do with him. Little Nine, don't you have anything to say? The Lord of Heavenly Palace asked in a deep voice. The heaven-mending sect's spirit son is inferior. If he dies, then so be it. Do you still need my 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace to explain anything? Yi Xian didn't open his eyes. His voice was cold and ruthless. Good. The Greenwood Pavilion Master was so angry that he laughed and said, Brother Heavenly Palace, your 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is really domineering. Today I, Greenwood, have learned a lesson. But since it's like this, my heaven-mending sect won't be polite in the following battles. The Greenwood Pavilion Master left in anger, leaving the Lord of Heavenly Palace stunned on the spot. He was completely stunned by this sudden turn of events. In fact, according to Yi Xian's original intention, he didn't want to kill the people of the heaven-mending sect. After all, Lu Bai had always been under the protection of the heaven-mending sect. However, when he learned that Liu Bai had turned into a demon and the heaven-mending sect master didn't help him at all, it made him feel dissatisfied with the heaven-mending sect. Moreover, on the stage, Zhang Lin was as noisy as a fly. Yi Xian wasn't in the mood to fight with this kind of trash for 300 rounds. He directly used the strength of his physical body to explode Zhang Lin on the spot, causing Zhang Lin to die without a complete corpse. Chapter 1239. The first round of the competition had already ended. It could be said that it was a quick battle. The weak ones were directly eliminated. However, the losers of the other 3 stages only suffered some injuries. Only Yi Xian's brutal killing had attracted the attention of all parties. Wow, this 10,000 spirit heavenly palace is too overbearing. They actually killed the spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect. This is too much. What do you know? The 10,000 spirit heavenly palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. So what if he killed the spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect? However, this 9th spiritual son was not famous before. I didn't expect him to be so vicious. However, the heaven-mending sect is not to be trifled with. I'm afraid there will be a good show to watch. Just as Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian were on their way back, various discussions entered their ears. This also made Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian slightly stunned. They didn't expect Yi Xian to win and use such a vicious method. In the 10,000 spirit heavenly palaces camp, Yi Xian closed his eyes and sat cross-legged, waiting for the next battle to begin. As Li Jiwei and Nangong Xian returned, both of them looked at Yi Xian with a surprised gaze. Little Jiu, as the saying goes, where it is possible to forgive people, one should forgive them. You have indeed gone too far by killing the spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect. You don't have to fight in the next round. Hallmaster, are you afraid that I will die in the hands of the heaven-mending sect or that I will lose face for the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace? Yi Xian said calmly. I'm doing this for your own good. You are only in the 9th Heaven Saint King realm, and your next opponents will all be in the creation realm. You should understand the gap between the realms. The heavenly palace's Hall Master frowned. Hall Master, you don't need to worry. If I die in the arena, it's because I'm not as good as others. Yi Xian said calmly, directly rejecting the heavenly palace's Hall Master. Okay, it's up to you. The heavenly palace's Hall Master's face was slightly cold. He was slightly dissatisfied with Yi Xian's arrogance at this moment. If it wasn't for Violet Spirit, he would have reprimanded Yi Xian. Little Nine, you were lucky enough to win a battle. Quit while you're ahead. Otherwise, it would be too late for you to regret it once you stepped foot onto the arena. Li Jiwei spoke indifferently, and it seemed as if she was giving advice. It wasn't that Li Jiwei was looking down on Yi Xian. What she said was the truth. After all, Yi Xian's cultivation was right there. He might be able to defeat an opponent in the same realm, but against someone who was a realm higher than him, Yi Xian had no hope of winning. 9th brother, listen to 4th sister's advice. Don't go down again. Nangong Xian secretly gave Yi Xian a look. After all, the two of them still had to conspire to kill Li Jiwei and seize the dragon essence in her body. If something really happened to Yi Xian, this was not the result she wanted to see. Unfortunately, Yi Xian turned a deaf ear to Nangong Xian's words. He merely sat cross-legged on the ground, and he seemed as if he hadn't heard the advice of everyone. Don't. The rumbling of the drums sounded again. The first round of the competition had just begun. This also caused everyone to once again watch the battles on the 4 arenas. They no longer paid attention to Yi Xian and the others. Although they were surprised that Yi Xian could kill Zhang Lin, it wasn't a difficult matter. What Li Jiwei and the others really cared about was the next opponent. Bang! On the first arena, a tragic figure flew out and directly turned into a skeleton. Earth Demon Luo slowly walked down the arena. This kind of battle was not worth mentioning to him at all. What a person from the heaven-devouring evil palace. If I encounter this person, I'm afraid he will be a formidable opponent. Li Jiwei frowned slightly and looked at Earth Demon Luo with a slightly fearful gaze. Jiwei, Earth Demon Luo and Lu Bai will be your biggest opponents in this Heaven's Pride competition. If you lose to them, our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace will lose face. The Heavenly Clan Master said in a deep voice. Don't worry, Clan Master. Jiwei will definitely defeat the two of them and spread the name of our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Li Jiwei hurriedly promised. Ha! Suddenly, a sneer came from Yi Xian's mouth. This also made Li Jiwei's face turn cold. She glared at Yi Xian fiercely with a trace of anger in her eyes. Time passed by slowly. The first round of battles was announced to have ended. 32 contestants had also been determined. The second round of drawing lots continued. It was unknown whether it was a coincidence or not, but this time Yi Xian drew a person from the heaven-mending sect. This person was in existence at the first stage of the creation realm. He was extremely famous among the heaven-mending sect's spiritual sons. He was definitely not someone Zhang Lin could compare with. However, Yi Xian's battle was the last. At this moment, the first to enter the arena were Lin Daosan and Nangong Xian. Rumble. The sky collapsed and divine light shook the sky. Nangong Xian's opponent was a person in a black robe. The entire arena rumbled and trembled from the battle between the two. If it wasn't for the protection of the Great Formation, the power that erupted from the two of them would have definitely turned the arena into ashes. Just when everyone thought that Nangong Xian would definitely win, a shocking scene appeared. When the black-robed man shot out a 9-colored divine light, Nangong Xian was actually blasted out of the arena by the opponent, and a large amount of blood spurted out of her mouth. How is this possible? The clan master of the heavenly clan stood up abruptly. An explosive aura burst out violently. He stared at the black-robed person in the arena, his eyes bursting with terrifying spiritual light. Not to mention the clan master of the heavenly clan, the people of the various great sects were also extremely stunned. This was because Nangong Xian was in existence at the second stage of the creation realm and was also the fourth spiritual lady of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. How could she be defeated by a nobody? Extreme, emotion, heavenly, palace. The clan master of the heavenly clan spat out these words one by one. This was because the black-robed person's attack just now was the signature secret technique of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, the Extreme Emotion 3 questions. When the clan master of the heavenly clan's words fell, there was an uproar from all the sections. They all looked at the black-robed person in the arena. Haha. Abruptly, on the arena, that person tore off the black robe on his body, revealing a peerlessly beautiful woman. This woman was clad in a black gauze, accentuating her curvaceous figure. Her skin was like white jade, giving off a feeling of extreme charm that could turn all living things upside down. Ji Bai Yao of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace greets everyone. Ji Bai Yao smiled charmingly and bowed to the various spiritual sons. Just her smile alone made the world silent, and heavy breathing could be heard constantly. This is a bewitching spell. Don't fall into her trap. No one knew who shouted, but it immediately woke the spiritual sons up instantly. However, the sound of them gasping could be heard constantly. Originally, the appearance of the earth demon Luo of the devouring demonic palace had already put great pressure on the spiritual sons. Now that the people of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace had also appeared in the prodigy competition, it simply made the spiritual sons feel extremely bitter. Clan Master, I'm not her opponent. Nangong Xian staggered back, and blood kept flowing out of her mouth. Obviously, she did not even enter the top 16, and she was extremely ashamed in her heart. Quickly heal your injuries. The clan master of the heavenly clan looked cold and did not reprimand Nangong Xian, because it was reasonable for her to lose to the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. After all, Ji Bai Yao was also a disciple of a supreme orthodoxy. Chapter 1240. At this moment, the Lord of the Heavenly Court and the others looked solemn. Only Lin Daosan and Li Jiwei were left now. If both of them were to suffer the same fate, the myriad spirit palace would be utterly humiliated. There was a saying, the more you fear, the more likely it is to happen. This sentence fully explained the Lord of the Heavenly Court's current mood. Rumble. On the third ring, Lin Daosen was also fighting a black-robed man. Similarly, a 9-colored divine light illuminated the area. Lin Daosen let out a shrill cry as he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was actually blasted out of the ring as well. He fainted. In the next moment, the person who had defeated Lin Daosen also lifted his black robe. A handsome and refined man appeared. His features were exquisite to the extreme. It was as if any woman who saw him would be enchanted by his appearance. Ji Changlu of the Extreme Emotion Palace greets everyone. Ji Changlu cupped his fists and bowed to the spiritual children of the various sections. The smile on his face did not diminish, giving off a refreshing feeling. Good, good, good. The Lord of the Heavenly Court was not a shrewd person to begin with. His heart was about to explode when 2 spiritual children were defeated by the man and woman from the Extreme Emotion Palace. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void and looked at the man and woman from afar with a strange smile on his face. This is getting interesting. Even the people from the Extreme Emotion Palace are here. I wonder if the other supreme orthodoxies are here as well? Yi Xian murmured. I heard that the white-robed Shensi has the potential to be the strongest seed. In the past, you defeated 3 great spirit sons of our hall by yourself. Today, my brother and I would like to ask the white-robed Shensi for advice. Ji Baiyao smiled charmingly at Lu Bai. Unfortunately, Lu Bai sat cross-legged in the void with his eyes closed and did not answer Ji Biao's question. It was as if he did not care about the siblings at all. The white-robed divine child is indeed arrogant. I hope you and I can compete in the next battle. Ji Changlu smiled faintly and walked down the arena without saying anything. When such an unexpected event occurred, the following battles could no longer attract the attention of the crowd. Everyone's attention was focused on the few supreme orthodoxies. Li Jiwei of the Myriad Spirit Palace. Ji Baiyao and her sister from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. Earth Mara of the Heaven-Devouring Devil Hall. There was also divine child Lu Bai. Obviously, the title of number 1 heaven's favorite will come from these 5 people. As for the others, they were just there to serve as a foil. Jiwei, the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's reputation is all on you now. When Li Jiwei was about to enter the battle, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master spoke solemnly. Don't worry, Headmaster. Unless one of them is in the Yin realm, they will all be defeated by me, Li Jiwei said coldly and strode onto the arena. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened this time. Li Jiwei's opponent was only at the first stage of the creation realm. With just 1 strike, Li Jiwei had seriously injured him to the point of death. She had won the battle smoothly, which made the Lord of the Heavenly Clan feel relieved. The Lord of the Heavenly Grip Hall was really afraid of another accident. If even Li Jiwei was defeated, how could he have the face to report back to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace? The battles continued one after another, but they could no longer attract the attention of the crowd. Because everyone's eyes were focused on these 5 people, the battles of the others had already become dull and boring. Little brother, you have to be careful. If you can't beat them, quickly admit defeat. Don't try to show off. Finally, it was Yi Xian's turn to enter the arena. His opponent was a spiritual son of the creation realm from the heaven-mending sect. This caused Violet Spirit to earnestly remind Yi Xian to be careful. It doesn't matter, Yi Xian said indifferently. He stepped out and appeared on the arena. Because this was the last battle of the second round, it attracted some people's attention to Yi Xian. At the same time, a spiritual light flashed across the sky. A golden-haired young man appeared in front of Yi Xian. He was looking at Yi Xian with a cold gaze. A cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes. A 9th Heaven Saint King against a creation realm expert. The 9th spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace will definitely lose. I really didn't expect that the 2 spiritual sons of the 10 Yuanhui Palace would be defeated. Now that the 9th spiritual son is defeated, Li Jiwei will be the only one left. However, I heard that the 9th spiritual son killed a spiritual son of the heaven-mending sect. I'm afraid the heaven-mending sect will not let him go in this battle. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to walk out of the arena alive. All kinds of noises and discussions were constantly heard. They also entered Yi Xian's ears. However, Yi Xian's expression did not change. He just stood on the arena indifferently. At this moment, the golden-haired young man stood with his hands behind his back. He looked at Yi Xian indifferently and said, "My name is Jin Zhan. Remember my name, because you will die in my hands today." Looking at the golden-haired young man's arrogant attitude, Yi Xian's expression did not change at all. He just nodded indifferently and did not respond at all. "You're still putting on an act when you're about to die. Today, I'll destroy your soul." Rumble. Spiritual light shot into the sky and exploded in the sky. The golden-haired young man had ascended to the extreme. The divine light of creation that covered the sky and the earth shook in all directions. The cultivation of the creation realm was revealed without a doubt. He rushed towards Yi Xian with a loud bang. Heaven-shaking art. The golden-haired young man used a heaven-shaking art. This heaven-shaking art was a divine art of the heaven-mending sect. It had an unbelievable power. When he used this art, he wanted to take Yi Xian's life. "Little brother, retreat quickly." Such a scene immediately made Ziling, who had been watching the battle, anxiously remind everyone. Facing a creation realm battle physique, Yi Xian was only a 9-heaven saint king. How could he be his opponent? "Kill him." The elders of the heaven-mending sect roared with hatred. "Little Ninth is dead for sure." Li Jiwei sneered. "How can you die in his hands? The only one who can kill you is me." Lu Bai suddenly stood up. He was already prepared to break the rules of the arena to block this attack for Yi Xian. This 9th spirit son of the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace is really ignorant. He actually dares to fight a creation realm battle physique as a saint realm expert. He is courting death. Ji Bai Yao shook her head speechlessly. Another ant who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Earth demon Luo stood alone with his arms crossed. A trace of contempt flashed through his eyes. In the arena. Go to hell. The void collapsed. Spiritual light shook the sky. This heaven-shaking art was too terrifying. The golden-haired young man laughed wildly. It was as if he could already see Yi Xian dying miserably in his hands. "You're really an ignorant trash." Yi Xian's body didn't move. He slightly frowned. A ruthless voice came from his mouth. He raised his 5 fingers into a fist and punched towards the golden-haired young man. A terrifying thing happened. Rumble. It was as if a sea of primal chaos was overturning the sky. It was as if the world was exploding with thunder. This fist illuminated the entire world. This fist broke the barrier of space. The dazzling fist light was so dazzling that people couldn't open their eyes. Bang! Heaven and earth were destroyed. Everything collapsed. When the fist light that pierced the sky gradually dissipated, the so-called heaven-shaking art turned into ashes. The golden-haired young man who was standing in the air seemed to be fixed in the air. This scene was extremely strange. Tap tap tap. Yi Xian indifferently turned around and slowly walked down the arena. A gust of wind blew, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. Even after he disappeared from the arena, no one came back to their senses. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Bang! The golden-haired young man who seemed to be fixed in the air shattered like porcelain. Cracks appeared all over his body. Then, with a loud explosion, this spirit son of the heaven-mending sect turned into a bloody mist that filled the sky and scattered in the sky. Silence! Silence! A deathly silence. When this terrifying scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes, the world became deathly silent. After more than 10 breaths of time, an uproar came from someone's mouth. It was as if there was a chain effect that spread, causing the world to become extremely noisy. How is this possible? He's dead? How did he die? One punch. Just one punch? Everyone was shocked and spoke in shock. Not to mention the spirit sons of the various sects who were shocked. Even the 5 strongest people's faces turned heavy. The head of the heaven-holding hall looked at Yi Xian walking towards him in a daze. He simply couldn't believe that Yi Xian actually had such terrifying combat strength. Chapter 1241. Bi Yao, did you see his attack clearly? Ji Chunlio's smile disappeared as he frowned at Yi Xian. A touch of fear flashed across his eyes. Where was the previous overbearing aura? Ji Biao solemnly shook her head and said, I didn't pay attention to the battle just now, but he can kill a creation realm expert with one blow. This person is definitely not simple. He is only a ninth heaven's Saint King. How can his battle strength be so terrifying? Ji Changlu muttered to himself. Although he didn't pay much attention to Yi Xian's battle, he couldn't help but feel surprised that a Saint Realm expert could kill a Creation Realm expert in front of him. Brother, our only opponent is Lu Bai. This time, we were ordered to come and see what kind of battle physique he has. Even if this person's battle strength is very strong, he is only a ninth heaven's Saint King. He is not enough to be our enemy, Ji Biyao said softly. On the other side, Earth Demon Luo sneered again and again. He glanced at Yi Xian returning to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace with a playful smile on his face. Yes, although his cultivation is only in the Saint Realm, his physical strength is terrifying. However, a weakling will always be a weakling. In the end, he can only be reduced to a vassal. Earth Demon Luo was extremely confident. Although Yi Xian's battle had surprised him, Yi Xian's cultivation was still there. Even if Yi Xian's physical body was very strong, it wasn't enough to be his opponent. On the heaven-mending sect's side, Lu Bai sat cross-legged in the void, looking at Yi Xian in the distance with a cold face. He slowly nodded as a bloody light flashed across his eyes. No wonder Brother Yi died in your hands. Today, you finally showed your true battle strength. Lu Bai whispered coldly as a wisp of black evil qi quietly appeared around him. On the other side, when Yi Xian returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, the head of the Heavenly Clan and the others had already stood up. They all looked at Yi Xian in bewilderment. Even Li Jiwei frowned as she sized him up with an inconceivable gaze. Little Jiu, it is said that after 3 days one should look at someone with new eyes. Today, I really understand the meaning of this sentence. Li Jiwei sneered. Little brother, you did well. Violet Spirit was all smiles. She didn't expect Yi Xian's battle prowess to be so strong. Yi Xian's victory also made her proud. Not bad. Keep working hard. The Lord of the Heavenly Court sat down cross-legged and lightly praised Yi Xian. His eyes also turned gentle. Although he looked down on Yi Xian before, now that Yi Xian had won 2 matches in a row, his attitude had greatly changed. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was extremely calm from the beginning until the end, and he didn't reveal any complacency at all. Because these 2 battles were nothing to him, and he hadn't used his full strength at all. His real goal was to defeat the spiritual sons of various sects until he fought with Lu Bai. He wanted to pull Lu Bai back from his demonic state. That was what he wanted. Soon, the second round of battles ended. A total of 16 people advanced to the next round. Li Jiwei and Yi Xian of the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Ji Zhonglu and his sister from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. Earth Mara of the Heaven-Devouring Devil Hall. Lu Bai, the Divine Son of the Heaven-Mending Sect. Apart from these 6 people, the other 10 people were all experts among the spiritual sons of various sections. However, compared to these 6 people, they weren't as dazzling. The third round of battles was to determine the top 8 among the 16 people. The following battles would be extremely exciting because none of the remaining 16 people were weak. The real battle had just begun. The third round of drawing lots soon began. The 16 people went up to draw lots one by one. Soon, they would know who their next opponent was. Little brother, who is your next opponent? Violet Spirit walked over quickly and asked Yi Xian with anticipation. Ji Biao. Yi Xian slowly unfolded the slip of paper in his hand. It was Ji Biao, who had just defeated Nangong Xian. Violet Spirit was startled, and then she helplessly shook her head. If Yi Xian's opponent was another spiritual son, Violet Spirit would be happy for Yi Xian. However, Ji Biao was a disciple of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, and she had just defeated Nangong Xian. If Yi Xian was to fight against her, he had no hope of winning. Haha. Suddenly, A burst of charming laughter sounded. Ji Biyao, who was wearing a black veil, was walking toward Yi Xian. I didn't expect that the next battle would be with a disciple of the 10,000 Spirit Palace. At that time, I will have to ask this little brother to go easy on me. Ji Biyao smiled charmingly. Unfortunately, Yi Xian treated this woman as air and directly walked away from the arena. This caused Ji Biyao's beautiful face to be slightly stunned, and a trace of dissatisfaction flashed through her eyes as she looked at Yi Xian. His cultivation is not high, but his arrogance is quite big. Ji Biyao muttered. Soon, the 16 contestants finished drawing lots, and their opponents were familiar with each other. There were a total of 8 battles in the top 16. The first battle, Li Jiwei versus Fei Yu. The second battle, Lu Bai versus Mo Changhe. The third battle, Ji Changlu versus Qin Yuexian. The fourth battle, Earth Demon Luo versus Lu Xianji. Strangely enough, Li Jiwei and the others did not encounter each other in the top 16. Their opponents were the spiritual children of various sections. Li Jiwei and the others were already set to advance to the top 8. However, Yi Xian had to face Ji Biyao from the Heavenly Palace of Extreme Emotion. Needless to say, Yi Xian was very unlucky. Dong, dong, dong. The rumbling of the drums was heard again, which meant that the third round of battles had officially begun. However, something strange happened. As Li Jiwei and the others went up to the 4 arenas, their opponents automatically admitted defeat. They had no intention of fighting with these disciples of the strongest orthodoxies. Clearly, although these disciples had a high cultivation base, they knew that they were no match for Li Jiwei and the others. Their cultivation bases were high, but they knew that they were no match for Li Jiwei and the others. What happened next became dull and uninteresting. The battles between the spiritual children of the major sects did not attract the attention of the crowd. Even if they fought until the sky darkened, there was nothing to see. The outcome was decided early on. It was only until the last battle of the third round when Ji Biyao and Yi Xian's battle attracted everyone's attention. Ji Biyao was a disciple of the Heavenly Palace of Extreme Emotion. If there were no accidents, she would win this battle. Do you guys think that the 9th spiritual child of the Myriad Spirit Palace will admit defeat? Of course not. They're both from the strongest orthodoxy. If the 9th spiritual child gives up, the Myriad Spirit Palace will lose face. Even if they know that they'll lose, they'll still have to fight. That's right. The strongest orthodoxies value their reputation very much. If they give up before the battle, won't they become a joke? Before Yi Xian and Ji Biyao went up to the arena, the crowd was already talking about it. It was obvious that the battle between the disciples of the strongest orthodoxies was very important. That a stream of light flashed across the sky. Yi Xian quietly appeared in the arena. At the same time, Ji Biyao appeared with her 9-colored divine light. She looked very charming as she smiled at Yi Xian. Chapter 1242. Little brother, I think it's better for you to admit defeat. If I accidentally injure you, I won't be able to bear it. Ji Biyao teased with a charming smile. At this moment, Yi Xian stood calmly without the slightest trace of dust around him. He looked at Ji Biyao indifferently, completely unaffected by her charming charm. I'll give you a chance to admit defeat. Otherwise, you'll end up in a miserable state. Yi Xian said calmly. It was fine if Yi Xian didn't say anything, but when he finished speaking, it instantly caused an uproar. Everyone looked at him as if he was a madman. Where did he get the confidence to say such arrogant words? This 9th spirit son is too reckless. The Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace is a supreme orthodoxy. Even Nangong Xian is not her opponent. This 9th spirit son is too arrogant. All sorts of discussions continuously sounded out, and the expressions of the heaven-wielding hall master and the others were also very unsightly. If Yi Xian were to be defeated by Ji Biyao, the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace would probably be ridiculed by the various sections. Little brother, you're very arrogant, but there's a price to pay for your arrogance. I'm afraid you won't be able to bear it. Ji Biyao was still smiling, but her smile was gradually turning cold. That will depend on your ability. Yi Xian said indifferently. Alright. Rumble. Ji Baiyao smiled charmingly. Her slender fingers swept across the void, illuminating the heaven and earth with 9-colored divine light. Extreme emotion grand art turned into a 9-colored waterfall and shot towards Yi Xian. Be careful, this is the extreme emotion secret art. It can confuse one's mind. Violet Spirit suddenly reprimanded, reminding Yi Xian to be careful. Boom. Tong Tian moved the earth and reversed the void. Facing Ji Baiyao's grand art, Yi Xian didn't have the slightest bit of carelessness. His cultivation base wasn't as good as his opponent, but his physical body was unparalleled. He had formed the Sage Monarch world, condensed his own laws and Tao, and created the first level of the Sky Burial art. His combat strength wasn't that simple. Destroy. Yi Xian's physical body was unparalleled. The first layer of the Buried Sky technique was operating in a cryptic manner. A gray mist rose around him. Yi Xian's fingertip glowed. When he pointed his finger, a gray waterfall crashed toward the 9-colored divine light. This was the first time that Yi Xian had used the Burying Heaven technique that he had created in battle. This was an extremely bold move because the Burying Heaven technique that he had created was only a preliminary creation. Even Yi Xian himself didn't know how powerful it was. However, there was one thing that Yi Xian firmly believed. Although the first level of his Heaven's Burial technique was hastily created, it had fused several supreme techniques into it. So, its might was absolutely not weak. Bang bang bang. A terrifying scene appeared. Yi Xian pointed his sword at the sky. This strand of gray sword light was condensed from the heaven-burying art. It directly shattered Ji Baiyao's 9-colored waterfall, and its remaining power didn't diminish as it rushed towards Ji Baiyao. What kind of technique is this? Ji Baiyao's complexion changed greatly. She had thought that she could take down Yi Xian with one blow. After all, she was in existence at the second stage of the creation realm, and was even a realm higher than Yi Xian. However, her attack was actually broken by Yi Xian, and instead, it rushed towards her. What shocked Ji Baiyao the most was that the gray aura surrounding Yi Xian's body at this moment actually made her feel a sense of trepidation. Extreme emotion. Ji Baiyao's hands formed a shield, and the bright 9-colored divine light covered her. The next moment, Yi Xian's gray sword light had already bombarded in front of her. An extremely strange and terrifying thing happened. This strand of gray sword light ignored the 9-colored divine light, as if it had broken through the barrier of time and space, and directly bombarded Ji Baiyao's chest. Ji Baiyao cried out in pain. A bloody hole was instantly pierced through her chest, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from her mouth. Her whole body fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. With just one blow, Ji Baiyao was seriously injured by Yi Xian. When this scene appeared in front of the eyes of the various great sects, the world instantly became dead silent. No one dared to believe their eyes. What kind of technique is this? Earth Demon Luo's complexion changed greatly, and a horrified voice came from his mouth. Little sister? Ji Zhanliu's complexion changed greatly, and he roared out loud. He was completely shocked by this scene. He couldn't understand how the other party was just a 9th Heaven Saint King. Even if his physical body looked like that of the Panga clan, he was definitely not Ji Baiyao's opponent. On the other side, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan suddenly got up. He stared at Yi Xian, and a pair of terrifying eyes opened, trying to see through Yi Xian's real body. Because even he didn't know where Yi Xian's attack came from, it also made him suspect that Yi Xian was not Jiu Lingzi at all. Unfortunately, although the Lord of the Heavenly Clan was very powerful, he still couldn't see through Yi Xian's real body. However, this also made him feel relieved. He was really afraid that someone would pretend to be Jiu Lingzi, otherwise, the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace would become a joke. Lord, what kind of technique is little Jiu practicing? Li Jiwei exclaimed in shock. Although he hadn't experienced the terror of this attack, it was obvious that Yi Xian's cultivation technique was extremely terrifying since Ji Baiyao was only injured by a single attack. At this moment, the Lord of the Heavenly Clan slowly shook his head, because he didn't know what kind of technique Yi Xian was practicing. Why did it have such a terrifying power that Ji Baiyao couldn't even resist? Bang! On the other side, Ji Baiyao fiercely fell on the arena, and a large amount of blood dyed the ground red. When this scene appeared in front of Yi Xian, it also made Yi Xian's mind fiercely shocked. The sky-burying technique was just a newly created technique. Although Yi Xian had never used this technique to fight with others, the power displayed at this moment simply shocked him. He didn't expect that he could seriously injure Ji Baiyao with just one attack. Ji Baiyao spat out a mouthful of blood. She struggled to get up with her arms supporting her on the ground. Her pierced chest and abdomen were rapidly healing, but her face had become extremely pale. Obviously, the attack just now didn't make her feel good. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How can you break through my extreme emotion barrier? Even if you practice the 10,000 Spirit Immortal scripture, it's impossible to break through my extreme emotion barrier. Ji Baiyao murmured in a daze. She looked at Yi Xian with eyes full of extreme horror. She couldn't understand how the other party's attack could pass through the extreme emotion barrier and penetrate her chest. In fact, Ji Baiyao didn't know that although Yi Xian had just created the first layer of the sky-burying technique, and it was only in embryonic form, the things it contained were extremely terrifying. The power of nirvanic extermination, the power of space-time, the star origin secret art, the boundless mortal technique, the tribulation transcenders devour, the first layer of the sky-burying technique was all-encompassing. It was created by Yi Xian by condensing all the methods and daos he had learned. Although it was just a rough creation and not perfect, how could its power be simple? Yi Xian's attack could pass through the extreme emotion barrier because the first layer of the sky-burying technique contained the profound meaning of spacetime. Naturally, it was reasonable to break through the space barrier. Of course, although Yi Xian's attack was terrifying, it was also because of Ji Baiyao's carelessness. If she had treated Yi Xian as an evenly matched opponent, she wouldn't have been seriously injured. Chapter 1243. Little sister, this person is very strange. You must not underestimate him. Ji Changlu scolded seriously. He was reminding Ji Baiyao that her opponent was definitely not a simple Nine Heavens Saint King. Little brother, you've really impressed me. It's a pity that you won't have the chance anymore. Ji Baiyao calmed her fluctuating emotions and a charming smile appeared on her face. However, a terrifying aura rose around her and 9-colored divine light erupted from her body. 7 emotions soul annihilation. Ji Baiyao shouted. Her hands suddenly formed a seal and the heaven and earth shook. An extremely terrifying 9-colored divine light soared into the sky and turned into a 9-colored river that strangled Yi Xian. When Ji Baiyao unleashed this peerless technique, the people from the various great sects stood up in shock. Cries of surprise could be heard from their mouths. She actually cultivated such a secret technique? Violet Spirit stood up with an ugly expression and a trembling voice came from her mouth. It was no wonder that Violet Spirit was so shocked. One should know that the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace was one of the strongest orthodoxies. In the past, the Extreme Emotion Lord ruled the 8th Yuan Hui and suppressed it for an entire era. The supreme technique created by the Extreme Emotion Lord was called the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Technique. When this technique was cultivated to a profound level, it could derive the power of extreme emotions. The power of extreme emotions was also one of the strongest powers. At this moment, Ji Baiyao's 7 emotions soul annihilation was a secret technique of the Extreme Emotions Heavenly Art. This technique could make people fall into boundless lust, and in the end, their soul would scatter. It was an extremely vicious secret technique. 7 emotions and 6 desires, a boundless sea of bitterness. All living things in the world had their own emotions. The attack of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace used the 7 emotions and 6 desires to achieve the goal of killing the enemy. This was a spiritual attack that involved the mysteries of the soul. It was also an extremely terrifying killing technique. This was the foundation of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace's eternal existence. Controlling one's emotions and 6 desires was an extremely terrifying technique. The 7 emotions soul annihilation that Ji Baiyao used at this moment fully demonstrated how terrifying the secret technique of the extreme emotion heavenly palace was. Rumble. The 9-colored river came crashing down, causing the void between heaven and earth to tremble endlessly. Yi Xian was instantly submerged by the 9-colored river. This 9-colored river was filled with the 7 emotions and 6 desires. It could completely drive a person crazy and cause their soul to disperse and die. AI. The Heavenhold Court Lord let out a long sigh. When he saw Yi Xian fall into the 9-colored river, it also meant that Yi Xian would be defeated without a doubt. Whether he could survive or not was still unknown. I already told Little Nine not to participate in this event. Now he's suffering the consequences of his own actions. Li Jiwei sneered. Yi Xian's life or death was of no importance to him. Headmaster, please save him. Violet's spirit looked anxious and bowed to the Heavenhold Court Lord. Now, only the Heavenhold Court Lord could save Yi Xian. If she delayed any longer, Yi Xian's soul would really disperse and he would really die. Violet's spirit, as cultivators, life and death are predestined. The Prodigy's Grand Gathering has its rules. Although our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui, breaking the rules of the Prodigy's Grand Gathering without permission will definitely cause others to criticize our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. The Heavenhold Court Lord said in a deep voice. But? Violet's spirit looked anxious, but before she could finish her words, the Heavenhold Court Lord frowned and said, Violet's spirit, this is his fate. His fate should be like this. You don't have to say anything more. On the other side, Lu Bai suddenly stood up with a touch of hostility surrounding his body. He was already prepared to save Yi Xian because he would never allow Yi Xian to die in the hands of Ji Baiyao. Suddenly, before Lu Bai could make a move, a series of footsteps came from the 9-colored river. A deep figure was slowly walking out of the 9-colored river. Like rolling clouds passing by, it was as if heaven and earth were roaring. Under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, Yi Xian walked step by step in the 9-colored river. When this scene appeared in everyone's eyes, the world became deathly silent. How is this possible? Why is this happening? Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream sounded out. Ji Baiyao's beautiful eyes were wide open as she stared at Yi Xian. Her face was already deathly pale to the extreme, and her footsteps were continuously retreating. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Although I haven't cultivated the power of extreme emotions, the 7 emotions soul-destroying skill can mess up one's vital spirit and destroy one's divine soul. The victim must have fallen into boundless lust and self-destructed. How can you be safe and sound? Ji Baiyao screamed again and again. She was extremely confused. She couldn't understand at all. This was her most powerful secret skill, which could even resist for a while in the face of a powerful figure in the cathode realm. But why was Yi Xian not affected at all? Why is this happening? Outside the field, Ji Changliu's face was extremely serious. He stared at Yi Xian's back, and a great sense of fear flashed across his face. No one knew the horror of the 7 emotions soul-destroying skill better than him. In the past, Ji Baiyao had suffered a lot in order to cultivate this secret skill. But today, it was ineffective. This was simply a fantasy. The way of heaven is ruthless. It treats all things as straw dogs. The way of heaven is ruthless. It buries souls in all ages. Boom! Thunder rumbled, shaking the sky and the earth. Yi Xian's voice exploded in the sky. His ruthless aura soared into the sky, and the 9-colored river was destroyed around him. Ji Baiyao suffered a great backlash. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily on the arena. The 7 emotions soul-destroying skill was indeed terrible. But Ji Baiyao was wrong. She had used this secret skill on Yi Xian. Yi Xian, a humble boy. Since childhood he had experienced the hardships of the mortal world and faced the desperate situation of life at the age of 14. He had given up many things along the way. Xia Qingzhu, his childhood sweetheart, was killed by him. Guanghan Fairy was killed by him. Even his family in the mortal world left him one by one. The Tongtian's Grand Tao was a solitary path. The only person accompanying Yi Xian was the eternal wind. The so-called 7 emotions and 6 desires were extremely weak in his heart. How could this 7 emotions soul-destroying skill hurt him? He had experienced the death of his loved ones and tried to kill the people he loved. He killed all enemies that stood in his way, even if they were old, weak, women, or children. How could a mere 7 emotions soul-destroying skill hurt Yi Xian? The 6 desires are ruthless. Heaven and earth are heartless. These simple words were as heavy as the ancient heavens, but this was the path that Yi Xian had walked all the way to here. Under the shocked gazes, Yi Xian walked towards Ji Baiyao step by step. His gaze was cold and ruthless. Just his indifferent gaze was enough to make people feel terrified. Their minds trembled violently. What is love? What is ruthlessness? Yi Xian looked down at Ji Baiyao from high above. His voice was indifferent and ruthless. It was as if he was asking Ji Baiyao a simple and unanswerable question. Chapter 1244. Ji Baiyao looked at Yi Xian in horror. This was the first time she felt fear in her heart. She could even feel the emotionless coldness in Yi Xian's eyes. You actually cultivated the emotionless Tao? Ji Baiyao trembled and shrieked. It was as if she had just discovered an extremely terrifying fact. It made her associate it with an extremely terrifying legend. There was a legend in the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. This legend was suspected to be left behind by the Extreme Emotion Master. Extreme Emotion Tao, Unemotional Heavens, Emotionless Self, Extreme Emotion Heart. When someone could cultivate the emotionless Tao, they could inherit the mantle of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Master and truly comprehend the true essence of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Technique. At this moment, Ji Baiyao thought of this legend. She looked at Yi Xian in horror. An extremely absurd thought emerged from the bottom of her heart. Could it be? Could it be that he is the divine son of my Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? Unfortunately, Ji Baiyao came to her senses in the next moment because Yi Xian was bursting with an extremely terrifying aura. He raised his 5 fingers and an extremely terrifying gray radiance flickered in his palm. It was as if he was going to kill Ji Baiyao on the spot in the next moment. Die! Yi Xian's eyes were cold. He launched a palm attack at Ji Baiyao. Stop! Suddenly, several frightened voices were heard. All kinds of radiance attacked Yi Xian with a loud bang. This also made Yi Xian's expression extremely gloomy. However, he still hurriedly sent Ji Baiyao flying with a palm attack. This woman's body was bathed in blood, but he didn't kill her. It wasn't that Yi Xian didn't want to kill this woman, but the great techniques blocking him were too terrifying. If he really used all his strength to kill Ji Baiyao, he would also be seriously injured. The loss outweighed the gain. All of a sudden, 3 rays of light appeared on the stage. The Greenwood Pavilion Master of the Heaven Mending Sect, Ji Changlu of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace, and the last person was the Heavenly Grip Hall Master. Needless to say, Ji Changlu naturally couldn't watch his little sister die in the hands of Yi Xian. As for the reason why the Greenwood Pavilion Master stopped them, it was very simple. Ji Baiyao was from the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. If she really died in the Prodigy Gathering, how would the Heaven Mending Sect explain it to the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? As for the Heavenly Grip Court Lord, he didn't want to become enemies with the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace because Yi Xian had killed Ji Baiyao. Naturally, he hurriedly stopped Yi Xian from killing Ji Baiyao. What is the meaning of this? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Little friend, where it's possible to let people off, one should spare them. You've already won, so why are you in such a hurry to kill them all? The Greenwood Pavilion Master frowned slightly. If I remember correctly, the rules of the Talents Grand Gathering state that the life and death of those who step onto the arena is up to fate. No one can interfere. Master Greenwood, are you breaking the rules? Yi Xian asked gloomily. You? The Greenwood Pavilion Master's expression changed. He wanted to reprimand Yi Xian, but he didn't know how to defend himself. After all, he was the one who broke the rules first. Little 9, Since we've won, why don't you spare her life? The Heavenly Grip Court Lord frowned slightly. Oh Lord, didn't you see that she wanted to kill me first? Now you don't help me but help an outsider. Are you saying that the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace is afraid of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace? Yi Xian said gloomily. This? The Heavenly Grip Court Lord was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Xian to be so ungrateful. This made him speechless and his old face turned slightly red. Ninth Spirit Son, we admit defeat in this round. I hope you won't meet me in the next round. Ji Changlu said coldly. He directly helped Ji Biao up and left the arena. At this moment, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He wanted to kill Ji Biao, but unfortunately, the situation forced him to stop. However, it didn't make any difference whether those who offended him died sooner or later. Humph! Yi Xian coldly snorted as he took a step forward and left the arena. The Heavenly Clan Lord's expression was displeased, but he couldn't blame Yi Xian for anything. Little brother, you worried me to death just now. As Yi Xian came back, Violet Spirit finally heaved a sigh of relief. Ninth brother, you've hidden your strength well. Suddenly, Li Jiwei walked over and looked at Yi Xian with fear in his eyes. He thought that Yi Xian would die in the hands of Ji Biao. He didn't expect that there would be such a big reversal and Ji Biao would almost be killed. Little Nine, you were actually able to injure Ji Biao despite the difference in cultivation level. Moreover, you were able to resist the 7 emotions soul extinguishing technique. What kind of technique are you cultivating? Why have I never seen it before? The Heavenhold Court Master narrowed his eyes. I learned it when I was training in the Great Nandu region. I'm sorry for making you laugh. Yi Xian said lightly and evaded the question with a simple sentence. Good, good, good. The Heavenly Grip Court Lord said 3 times. He could clearly feel that Yi Xian was evading him, but as a senior, he couldn't force the junior to practice the technique. Otherwise, he would be criticized when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. However, Yi Xian's attitude at the moment made the Heavenly Grip Court Lord extremely dissatisfied. Moreover, the Heavenly Grip Court Lord found that Yi Xian was becoming more and more mysterious, as if he was hiding some kind of secret. The Heavenly Grip Court Lord believed in his feeling. He guessed that Yi Xian must have obtained some kind of great opportunity. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to defeat Ji Biao. Don't. The sound of drums kept ringing and the 3rd round of the competition finally ended. The top 8 were finally decided. Heaven Mending Sex Lu Bai. Heaven Devouring Evil Palaces Earth Demon Luo. Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palaces Ji Changlu. 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palaces Li Jiwei. As for Yi Xian, he defeated Ji Biao and successfully advanced to the top 8. As for the remaining 3 people, they were just side characters. There was no need to mention them here. Now, we will draw lots for the 4th round to decide your opponents in 3 months. The top 8 battles would begin in 3 months. During this 3-month interval, the 8 contestants also needed to recover their lost cultivation and injuries. This had always been the rule of the Talents Grand Gathering. Soon, Yi Xian and the other 8 contestants stepped onto the arena and drew lots to see who their opponents would be in the next round. This time, Yi Xian could be said to be very lucky. He drew a spiritual son of a great sect. His opponent's cultivation was only at the 1st stage of the creation realm. His combat physique was also very ordinary. With Yi Xian's cultivation, it wouldn't be a problem for him to advance to the top 4. However, there was one person whose face turned extremely ugly. This person was Li Jiwei. Her opponent for the next round was Earth Demon Luo of the Sky Devouring Evil Palace. Earth Demon Luo was an extremely difficult person to deal with. At this moment, her brows were slightly knitted together. On the other hand, Lu Bai and Ji Changlu had drawn the other 2 spirit sons of the great sections. In other words, these 2 and Yi Xian were almost certain to advance to the top 4. The only thing to watch in the top 8 was Li Jiwei's battle against the Earth Demon Luo. The last spot for the top 4 was also decided between these 2 people. Ladies and gentlemen, the quarterfinals will begin in 3 months. Please be there on time. When the lots were drawn, the Greenwood Pavilion Lord walked onto the arena. He first cupped his fists and bowed to the people of various sections. The people of various sects also left the Talents Grand Gathering and waited for the gathering to begin again in 3 months. Chapter 1245. Time was like water, passing by quickly. 3 short months passed by quickly and the Genius Grand Gathering began once again. The entire event was extremely lively and a lot of discussions could be heard from various sections. The biggest highlight of the quarterfinals was the battle between Earth Demon Luo and Li Jiwei. Lu Bai and the others would definitely advance if there were no accidents. At this moment, the various sects were also discussing who would win between Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo. This battle seemed to be a competition between the two of them, but the profound meaning was not that simple. Because both of them were disciples of supreme orthodoxies, this battle would also affect the reputation of the two supreme orthodoxies. It could be said that both Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo could not afford to lose. If they were defeated by each other, it would be a lifelong humiliation. Don't. The rumbling of the drums echoed in all directions, indicating that the quarterfinals had officially begun. There were a total of 4 battles in the quarterfinals. The first one was Lu Bai. Lu Bai sent his opponent flying with a single blow, showing a crushing momentum. There was no suspense in his victory. In the second battle, Ji Zhonglu also showed an unparalleled strength. His opponent immediately admitted defeat and Ji Zhonglu easily won the battle. The third battle was Yi Xian. His opponent was only at the first level of creation realm and his combat body was not very strong. His opponent knew that Yi Xian was ruthless, so he immediately forfeited the battle. There was no suspense in these 3 battles and it was within the expectations of the various sections. The real highlight of the day was the battle between Li Jiwei and Earth Demon Luo. Jiwei, our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. We can only win this battle. If you lose, our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace's prestige will be damaged. This is too heavy a price to pay. Before Li Jiwei was about to enter the arena, the Heavenly Grip Court Lord spoke solemnly, informing Li Jiwei of the seriousness of the matter. Don't worry, Court Lord. Earth Demon Luo will definitely be defeated by me. After Li Jiwei finished speaking, she took a step forward and appeared in the arena. At this moment, Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void. He squinted his eyes and looked at the arena. He was very interested in this battle because he had never seen Li Jiwei fight before. He did not know much about the battle strength of the second spiritual son. However, according to Yi Xian's conjecture, Li Jiwei was a member of the Azure Dragon clan. The Dragon clan's physical body was naturally powerful. Moreover, he had the Jiwei battle body, so his cultivation and combat strength must be extraordinary. Haha. While Yi Xian was lost in thought, a burst of wild laughter reverberated between heaven and earth. A black light streaked across the sky and instantly appeared in front of Earth Demon Luo. White-haired, black-robed, and surrounded by evil aura, Earth Demon Luo stood proudly on the arena. The surrounding void was faintly distorted as if he had turned into a black hole that was going to devour everything around him. The heaven-devouring demonic palace was truly terrifying. The heaven-devouring demon master would definitely be one of the 10 strongest beings of all ages. Although the heaven-devouring demon master attained Tao in the 7th Eon, the heaven-devouring demonic technique that he created was too terrifying. There were even rumors that the heaven-devouring demon master could devour others' strongest forces after he stepped into the strongest realm. No one knew if this legend was true or not, but from this legend, one could tell how terrifying the reputation of the heaven-devouring demon master was. As a disciple of the heaven-devouring demonic palace, they had completely inherited the heaven-devouring demon master's ferocious temperament. Each of them was an existence that was not to be trifled with. Li Jiwei, you're no match for me. It's not too late to admit defeat. Earth Demon Luo's white hair fluttered in the wind and his black robe fluttered. He looked at Li Jiwei with his hands behind his back. When he opened and closed his eyes, there seemed to be a terrifying black hole rotating in his eyes. It made one's heart tremble. With just you? Li Jiwei sneered. Stubborn. Rumble. Earth Demon Luo suddenly raised his 5 fingers. The black light that exploded the void flickered in his palm. There was an extremely terrifying aura intertwined in it. Boom. Earth Demon Luo didn't say any nonsense. He directly struck the great technique in his hand at Li Jiwei. The heaven and earth shook as the terrifying black light blasted in front of Li Jiwei. Myriad Spirit Technique. Li Jiwei's expression remained unchanged. She formed a seal with both of her hands and struck out a great technique to block Earth Demon Luo's probing attack. Interesting. That 9th spiritual son has made me have a whole new level of respect for him. I wonder if you, the 2nd spiritual son, are stronger than him? Rumble. Earth Demon Luo smiled evilly. His whole body burst out with a black light that covered the sky. The terrifying aura of the Tong Tian swept out in all directions and arrived in front of Li Jiwei in an instant. Looking at Earth Demon Luo's sudden attack, Li Jiwei suddenly struck back. There was a hint of anger on her face because Earth Demon Luo actually compared her with Yi Xian. This was simply looking down on her. Bang! Fist and palm collided, causing the heavens to collapse and the earth to crack. The two of them instantly clashed, causing terrifying cracks to spread around the arena. If it weren't for the peerless formation protecting the arena, just the power released by the two of them would have been enough to shatter the world. It had to be said that both of them were at the 3rd stage of the creation realm. The cultivation they displayed was too terrifying. Even Yi Xian, who was far away from the ring, was amazed by the scene. The 3 stages of the creation realm, life and death realm, nirvana realm, and origin returning realm. The two people were both origin deity realm powerhouses. They were merely a step away from stepping into yin-yang realm, 2 realms. Moreover, the two people's combat physiques were also 1 in 10,000. The power they displayed was absolutely terrifying to the extreme. Yi Xian was measuring himself and comparing the gap between the two of them. In the end, Yi Xian came to a conclusion. If he were to fight against one of them, his cultivation couldn't be compared to the other party at all. He would definitely be crushed. In terms of physical body, Li Jiwei's physical body was extremely terrifying and should be on par with his. Presumably, this was also the reason why she was from the Dragon Clan. In terms of magical powers, the great arts that both of them displayed at this moment were extremely terrifying. They were all secrets of the 2 supreme orthodoxies that were not passed on. At this moment, it was still impossible to tell who was stronger and who was weaker. After Yi Xian compared himself, he helplessly discovered a fact. If he were to really fight against one of them, just the difference in cultivation alone would cause him to lose without a doubt. However, if Yi Xian displayed supreme power, these two should be unable to do anything to him. After all, he cultivated the power of nirvanic destruction and the power of spacetime. He didn't dare to say that he could defeat the two of them, but he could still be in an invincible position. The most important thing was that he had passed the variant chaotic saint tribulation back then. This had laid down an incomparably solid foundation for him. Coupled with his full cultivation, he could barely put up a fight. However, Yi Xian also knew that if he really displayed his supreme power, his identity would definitely be exposed. Therefore, he couldn't use his supreme power at all. Therefore, after expelling his strongest power, he was only left with the heaven-burying art that he had created himself. This technique had helped him defeat Ji Biao, and it possessed inconceivable power. It was also Yi Xian's confidence in this battle. Moreover, don't forget that in addition to creating the first level of the Heaven's Burial technique, Yi Xian had also comprehended an ancient great technique. Shocking heaven and earth. That's right, shocking heaven and earth. Yi Xian's greatest gain from creating the Heaven's Burial technique was shocking heaven and earth. It was just that he had never used this technique before. However, he had already deduced it countless times in his mind. Yi Xian didn't know how powerful this shocking the heavens and earth was, but he had a premonition that when this shocking the heavens and earth was used, its power would definitely be earth-shattering. Chapter 1246. While Yi Xian was examining himself, there was another change in the arena. Bang! The void between heaven and earth exploded again and again. Black and white light raged and roared. The two hit each other and instantly sent both of them flying backward. Earth Demon Luo, you are indeed very strong. Today, I will let you taste the power of my Jiwei world. Li Jiwei's mouth was stained with blood and her eyes were as red as blood. She roared at Earth Demon Luo. Obviously, Li Jiwei was slightly inferior in the battle just now. Wow! When Li Jiwei's words fell, the people of various sects were shocked. For a time, the atmosphere suddenly became dead silent and an extremely heavy atmosphere continued to grow. It was no wonder that the people of various sects were shocked. When Li Jiwei took out her own world for the battle, it meant a battle of life and death. As everyone knew, when one stepped into the Sage King realm, he could open up his own Sage King world. The power of the world was not just for fun. It was something related to one's own great path origin. The so-called Sage King world was just a general name. As one's cultivation rose, there were various names for the world. Sage King world, Creation world, Yin-Yang world. Every time one advanced to a higher realm, the world opened up would also be upgraded. Not only did it contain one's own great path origin, but the world opened up would also be more terrifying. In one's own world, one would be the most powerful existence. However, there was an unwritten rule in the chaotic world. There were only two situations when one could take out their own world for the battle. The first was when one encountered a weaker existence and the world opened up could easily crush the opponent. The second was when one encountered an enemy of equal strength and took out their world for the battle. However, the world opened up by each person was extremely important and must not be damaged. Otherwise, it would affect the foundation of one's future. Therefore, very few people dared to take out their world for the battle. If there was the slightest mistake, it would destroy one's own great path opportunity. It was just like when Yi Xian was only a great sage. When he encountered Holy King Hun Tian's Sage King world, he almost suffered a great loss. Fortunately, he destroyed Holy King Hun Tian's world, which also caused his opponent to suffer a backlash, which allowed him to succeed in his counterattack. Therefore, anyone who used the battle of the world, other than crushing opponents weaker than themselves, was fighting to the death. This was also the reason why no one used the battle of the world in the Talents Grand Gathering, no matter how fierce the battle was. If he lost, he would at most lose some face. However, if his world was damaged, it would be the same as cutting off his future. No one would be stupid enough to do such a thing. Rumble. With Li Jiwei as the center, a milky white halo blossomed from his body. The entire area was illuminated by a brilliant radiance. He had finally unleashed the Jiwei world that he had opened up. He wanted to defeat Earth Demon Luo completely. In fact, Li Jiwei did not want to do this. However, he could not afford to lose. As the second spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, if he lost in the quarterfinals, not only would the 10,000 Spirit Palace lose face, he would also become a joke. Rainbow light covered the sky. Chains of order and pillars appeared between heaven and earth, taking root in the void like a maze. Li Jiwei stood in the sky, her entire being in harmony with heaven and earth, erupting with an extremely terrifying aura. Great! Outside the arena, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master roared loudly. The fact that Li Jiwei could unleash his world was like a shot of cardiac stimulant to the Heavenly Grip Hall Master. Earth Demon Luo, I'll give you a chance. It's not too late to admit defeat. When Li Jiwei unleashed his world, he was like a high and mighty monarch overlooking Earth Demon Luo in the arena. There was an indescribable terrifying aura. At this moment, Earth Demon Luo's arrogance disappeared, and his expression gradually turned solemn. He could feel how terrifying Li Jiwei's current state was. If he wanted to continue fighting with Li Jiwei, he would have to bring out the world that he had opened up. However, if he did so, the two of them would not rest until one of them was dead. Good. I didn't expect you to unleash your world. Then, I'll play with you today. As a disciple of the sky-devouring demonic palace, Earth Demon Luo was definitely a ruthless person. In the next moment, his body bloomed with Tong Tian black light as he unleashed his spirit-devouring world. Ghosts wailed and gods howled as demonic light pierced the sky. Terrifying demonic shadows roared above Earth Demon Luo, interweaving into a terrifying vision of a group of demons dancing wildly. One was the Jiwei battle physique while the other was the spirit-devouring battle physique. The worlds they opened were compatible with each other. The power they displayed was simply enough to shatter this world. Kill! Li Jiwei roared in the sky. At this moment, he couldn't retreat anymore. He directly transformed into the Azure Dragon's body and rushed towards Earth Demon Luo with his Jiwei world. Spirit-devouring flock. Earth Demon Luo roared crazily. His entire body expanded to 100,000 feet tall, turning into a towering giant. Behind him, the group of demons in the spirit-devouring world charged towards Li Jiwei. Rumble! The heavens exploded, and space shattered. When the two great worlds collided, this world was about to be turned into a vacuum. Fortunately, the heaven-mending sect had already anticipated this type of situation, and the great formation they laid down was able to limit the power the two individuals erupted with to the arena. Sizzle! Bang! All of a sudden, the black light around Earth Demon Luo's body soared to the sky, and all the spiritual chi within 8 million miles instantly turned into a vacuum and gathered on his body. An unimaginably majestic power erupted from his body, and unexpectedly, Li Jiwei's world completely collapsed. Barf! Li Jiwei's world dissipated. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. He fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Bang! Along with a loud bang, Li Jiwei smashed into the arena and fainted completely. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Damn it! Suddenly, a roar of shame and anger rang out. The Heavenly Grip Hallmaster's hair stood on end and his eyes turned scarlet red. He had never imagined that Li Jiwei would still be defeated by Earth Demon Luo even after using her world. Buzz! Earth Demon Luo slowly walked down from the sky. He had already kept his spirit-devouring world. Although he had defeated Li Jiwei, he had used his own world to fight. This had caused his cultivation base to be exhausted greatly. At this moment his face was a little pale. The winner is Earth Demon Luo of the Heaven-Devouring Demonic Palace. Soon, the judge announced the result. Earth Demon Luo revealed a proud smile and strode away from the arena. However, no one knew whether it was intentional or not. Earth Demon Luo's gaze fell on Yi Xian. When their eyes met, Earth Demon Luo smiled evilly, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. He looked at Yi Xian as though he was looking at a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Chapter 1247. At this moment, the master of the heavenly clan looked extremely gloomy. 3 out of the 4 spiritual sons had been defeated. How could he explain this to the 10,000 Spirit Palace? The young generation of the 10,000 Spirit Palace, which was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui, was almost annihilated by the other supreme orthodoxies. This was simply a slap in the face. This was not only a slap in the face to the master of the heavenly clan, but also to the 10,000 Spirit Palace. The master of the heavenly clan could not help but gasp when he thought of the blame he would suffer when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Palace. Trash, all of you are trash. Looking at the unconscious Li Jiwei, the master of the heavenly clan scolded angrily. He flicked his sleeves and left angrily, not caring about Li Jiwei's life at all. Li Jiwei's world was destroyed, and his great Tao foundation was broken. From then on, he would be mediocre. Even if he recovered from his injuries, he could only be a useless person. He would never have the chance to step into the Yin-Yang realm, let alone become a supreme seed and compete for the next Yuan Hui in the future. At this moment, Yi Xian saw all of this with his eyes. He was even more able to understand the cruelty of the primal chaos world. When Li Jiwei's world was destroyed, he had completely become a stepping stone under the feet of the Earth Demon Luo, and had also been completely abandoned by the head of the heavenly clan. It was not that the master of the heavenly clan abandoned him, but that the 10,000 Spirit Palace no longer needed this trash. Li Jiwei was no longer the second spiritual son. His future was doomed to be dark, and he would always live in the shadow of failure. Soon, the master of the Greenwood Pavilion went up to the stage and announced the top 4. The top 4 would fight 1,000 years later. At that time, the top 4 would draw lots to determine their opponents until the champion of the talent's grand gathering was determined. People from all sects left one after another, waiting for the start of the top 4 battle 1,000 years later. It had to be said that people were so realistic. When Li Jiwei was defeated by Earth Demon Luo, Lin Daosan and Nangong Xian, who used to call him second brother, did not even bother to look at him and let him fall in a pool of blood. Li Jiwei, whose world was destroyed, was already a useless person. He would no longer be the second spiritual son. He was not even qualified to carry their shoes. Help me, help me. Blood flowed from the corner of Li Jiwei's mouth and her entire body was like a pile of mud. She crawled in a pool of blood and weakly begged for help from Violet Spirit and the others. She no longer had the arrogance from before and looked extremely pitiful. Little brother, let's go. From beginning to end, Violet Spirit didn't even look at Li Jiwei. Ignoring the fact that she hated this person, Li Jiwei was already crippled. Even if she recovered in the future, she would be nothing more than a cripple. Fourth sister, third brother, save me, save me. Li Jiwei reached out with a trembling hand, but Nangong Xian and Lin Daosan had already left with large strides. The two of them naturally wouldn't care about a piece of trash like him. But Li Jiwei weakly hammered the ground as blood continuously flowed from her mouth. Tears of misery flowed from her eyes as she loudly questioned Nangong Xian and Lin Daosan. Let me help you up. Suddenly, a voice rang out beside Li Jiwei's ear. A powerful hand lifted Li Jiwei up, causing her to be stunned on the spot. Little Nine? When he saw the person in front of him, Li Ji muttered in a trembling voice. His lips were trembling to the extreme. He never thought that it would be Yi Xian who would lend him a helping hand at this moment. Little brother? Violet Spirit frowned. Just as she was about to say something, Yi Xian had already taken out a medicinal pill and directly put it into Li Jiwei's mouth before she could speak. Your injuries are extremely serious. This medicinal pill can only prevent your injuries from worsening. I can only help you up to this point. After that, you will have to rely on yourself to recover, Yi Xian said faintly. Ninth brother, Li Jiwei wanted to say something but stopped. She didn't know what to say. Tears rolled down her cheeks and her heart was bitter to the extreme. There is no enmity between you and me. It's just that our natures don't match. Moreover, as a member of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, I naturally can't leave you in the lurch, Yi Xian said calmly as he supported Li Jiwei step by step back into the Greenwood Pavilion. Greenwood Pavilion. Bang. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan smashed the stone table in front of him into pieces. His face was extremely gloomy. Li Jiwei knelt on the ground with a bitter and desperate expression. Li Jiwei, you are simply a disgrace to our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan was furious as he reprimanded Li Jiwei. Lord, disciple has done her best. Li Jiwei said bitterly. Humph. Yuan Tian snorted coldly. The dignified second spiritual son was defeated by Earth Demon Luo. Outsiders will think that our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace is inferior to the heaven-devouring demonic palace. You are simply a disgrace to our 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. Li Jiwei, if you knew that you were no match for Earth Demon Luo, you should have voluntarily given up early. This way, you could have guaranteed your cultivation. Now, not only have you disgraced the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, but your world has also been destroyed by him. I think the position of the second spiritual son will change in the future, Nangong Xian said coldly. Sigh, it's a pity that only little Nine is left. Are we going to rely on him to win? Lin Daosan mocked Li Jiwei. Looking at everyone attacking him together, Li Jiwei's face turned red and he was speechless. After a dozen breaths of time, he laughed hysterically with great hatred in his eyes. Lord, although I, Li Jiwei, was defeated, I fought with my life on the line for the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, even if my world was destroyed. Moreover, Nangong Xian and Lin Daosan were also defeated by others. Why is the Lord punishing me? Li Jiwei roared. You want to know the reason? The Lord of the Heavenly Clan was so angry that he laughed and said, Fine, I will tell you the reason. Although the two of them were defeated, their aptitude is still there. There is still the possibility of unlimited improvement in the future. However, your world has been destroyed and you have become a cripple. Our 10,000 spirit heavenly palace has never needed a cripple. Do you understand now? You? What? Li Jiwei was already seriously injured. At this moment, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted again. Humph, what a waste! The Lord of the Heavenly Clan said in disgust. Lord, how should we deal with Li Jiwei? Yuan Tian asked. He is just a cripple. Let him fend for himself. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan waved his hand casually and strode away, not caring about their old friendship at all. Ninth brother, congratulations on advancing to the top 4. This time, it is all thanks to you. Lin Daosan looked at Yi Xian with a smile. Yes, if ninth brother can advance to the finals, when we return to the 10,000 spirit heavenly palace, the position of the second spiritual son will belong to ninth brother. At that time, we will have to change the way we address you. Nangong Xian softly echoed. Little ninth brother, cultivate well in these 1,000 years. Don't let me down. The Lord of the Heavenly Clan's voice came from the depths of the Greenwood Pavilion. His attitude was completely different from before. There was no other reason. Of the 4 spiritual sons, only Yi Xian was left. Yi Xian was also the last hope. Although the Lord of the Heavenly Clan didn't think that Yi Xian could win the championship, it was better than having no hope. Violet Spirit, you have found a good brother. Yuan Tian smiled and nodded towards Yi Xian in goodwill. How could he still have the contempt from before? Little brother, if you are not a match for the top 4, you can automatically forfeit. You have done very well in this Heaven's Pride gathering. Violet Spirit said earnestly. I will do my best. Yi Xian said calmly. He just looked at the unconscious Li Jiwei indifferently. He once again had a new understanding of the so-called human nature. Chapter 1248. Water, Li Jiwei said weakly as he lay on the bed. He was in a semi-conscious state. He tried his best to open his eyes, but his eyelids were extremely heavy. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't open them. Li Jiwei's injuries were too serious, to the point that his life was in danger. If he didn't treat his injuries quickly, he would really die. But the sound of water pouring could be heard. In Li Jiwei's muddled state, he only felt that he was being helped up and a large amount of water was poured into his mouth. This made his condition slightly better and his eyes slowly opened. Little Nine? When he saw the person in front of him, Li Jiwei said hoarsely. However, his voice was filled with bitterness and his mood was extremely complicated. The world of creation has been destroyed and the meridians in your body are all broken. Even if you can heal your injuries, you can only stay in the 3rd stage of creation for the rest of your life. Your future will be dark and you will be reduced to a mediocre person. Yi Xian stood with his hands behind his back and his voice was extremely calm. Little Nine, what do you want to say? Li Jiwei was silent for a long time. Even if Yi Xian didn't say it, he could see his future path. Today, the disgust and contempt of the Heavenly Clan Master and others had already explained many problems. You have hatred in your heart, don't you? Yi Xian slowly turned around and looked at Li Jiwei indifferently with an inexplicable look in his eyes. Who do I hate? Li Jiwei looked at Yi Xian in a daze. You hate Earth Demon Luo. You hate him for destroying your future. However, you hate the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace even more. You hate them for abandoning you because you became a trash. Yi Xian said indifferently. Ha! Suddenly, Li Jiwei laughed wildly. As he laughed, a line of tears flowed down his face. At this moment, his face was ferocious and the hatred in his eyes had condensed. Little Nine, Little Nine. It turns out that I, Li Jiwei, have always underestimated you. Among the 12 spiritual sons, you are the one who hid the deepest. Li Jiwei sighed. You are wrong. I am not Yao Yueye, nor am I from your 10,000 spirit heavenly palace. Boom. When Yi Xian's words entered his ears, Li Jiwei felt as if a thunderbolt had exploded in his mind. He looked at Yi Xian in shock, but after 3 breaths of time, he calmed down again. I see. Li Jiwei smiled bitterly. She finally understood that the person in front of her was not Yao Yueye at all. No wonder he could defeat Ji Biao of the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace. If you tell me such a big secret, aren't you afraid that I will report this matter to the Heavenly Grip Court's head? Li Jiwei calmly looked at Yi Xian. You wouldn't. Because you hate everyone in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, and you hate the Heavenly Clan Master even more. You want nothing more than for them to die, so how could you possibly expose my secret? Am I right, Li Jiwei? Yi Xian said with a strange smile. Tell me, what is your purpose? Li Jiwei was a smart person. He believed that Yi Xian had appeared in front of him not because he pitied him, but because he had his own motives. I like to deal with smart people. You really didn't disappoint me. Yi Xian nodded approvingly. Actually, Nangong Xian once looked for me. She wanted me to use the 10,000 poisons powder to kill you and seize the dragon essence in your body. Yi Xian said bluntly. 10,000 poisons powder? You killed Jin Yang? Li Jiwei's expression changed slightly as he looked at Yi Xian in shock. But in the next moment, he calmed down again because this matter was no longer important to him. He was just a cripple now. I said you are very smart. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. What is your purpose for telling me this? Li Jiwei frowned slightly. Your world was destroyed, and the dragon essence in your body was shattered. This made Nangong Xian very disappointed, so the matter of seizing your dragon essence was left unsettled. What do you want to say? Li Jiwei frowned. Although the dragon essence in your body is shattered, your realm is still there. I know that the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace has a secret technique called the Great Blood Spirit Technique. This technique can condense the essence, energy, and spirit of your body into one point, allowing you to recover your cultivation in 2 hours and return to your peak state, Yi Xian said. But after 2 hours, I will die and no longer exist in this world. Li Jiwei said coldly. I have a technique called the Calamity Transcender Technique. It can devour the cultivation of others for my own use. If I can devour your cultivation, I can directly enter the creation realm, Yi Xian said softly. Li Jiwei smiled contemptuously. He looked at Yi Xian as if he was looking at a madman. Little Nine, although I don't know who you are, I will still call you that. Why do you think I will sacrifice myself to help you? Li Jiwei said coldly. It's very simple. You have hatred in your heart. You want to kill Earth Demon Luo, you want to kill the Heavenly Holding Hall Master, and you want to kill everyone in the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. But you have already become a cripple. Even if you drag out an ignoble existence, you will be bullied by others from now on. Those who have been bullied by you will settle the score with you. In the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, you are even inferior to the lowest divine generals. Do you think you will still be the second spirit son after returning to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace? Think about it. Just from the Heavenly Holding Hall Master's attitude of disgust towards you today, you should know what your future will be like. It is easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide timely help. Today, you have been defeated by Earth Demon Luo and have become a cripple. Even if you return to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace alive, the Heavenly Holding Hall Master will push all the blame on you. At that time, you will still die. No one will plead for mercy for a cripple. Don't you understand this principle? Boom. Li Jiwei was stunned on the spot and didn't come back to his senses for dozens of breaths. Yi Xian looked at Li Jiwei indifferently, waiting for him to make the final decision. I can promise you that I will help you kill Earth Demon Luo. When my cultivation reaches the great accomplishment stage in the future, I will exterminate the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace for you. This can be considered as a deal between us. Rumble. After Yi Xian finished speaking, the space-time force and nirvana force burst forth. When the two powerful forces appeared in front of Li Jiwei, he was stunned on the spot. Ha! Suddenly, Li Jiwei laughed hysterically. When he stopped laughing, his emotions had completely calmed down. Good. Little Jiao, you are indeed a character. I, Li Jiwei, don't mind giving up my life. Today, I will fulfill your wish. But I hope you can keep your promise. Otherwise, even if my soul disperses, I will curse you for all eternity. Rumble. A bloody light burst out from Li Jiwei's body as the cultivation of the third stage of the creation realm was fully released. This was Li Jiwei's final sublimation and also his decision. Just as Yi Xian said, he had already become a cripple and there was no hope for him in the future. Even if he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master would use him as a scapegoat. The second spirit's son, whose world had been destroyed, had no future to speak of. Even if he wanted to drag out an ignoble existence and live in the cruel environment of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, who knew how many people wanted to take his life? In the end, his only fate was death. Calamity Transcender Technique. Rumble. Yi Xian turned into a cloud of black mist and submerged Li Jiwei. Li Jiwei smiled and didn't resist. His body turned into a bloody mist bit by bit until his entire person didn't exist between heaven and earth. Little Jiu, remember your promise to me. Chapter 1249. Everything was silent and the world was silent. Yi Xian sat cross-legged in the void as the heaven's burial technique surged in his body. Wisps of gray light circulated around him and a terrifying fluctuation was faintly released. After devouring Li Jiwei's blood-soul essence, Yi Xian's heaven's burial technique had obviously improved. Although the improvement was not obvious, it was an excellent signal for Yi Xian. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of turbid air, instantly causing the void to explode and recover. Yi Xian also slowly opened his eyes at this moment. Li Jiwei's cultivation is indeed extremely rich. It's a pity that I didn't have enough time. Yi Xian murmured. After devouring Li Jiwei's cultivation and refining the most original power for him to absorb, not only had his heaven's burial technique become purer, but Yi Xian's cultivation had also undergone an earth-shattering change. The power in his body was like a vast river that surged endlessly. However, Yi Xian still had not truly stepped into the creation realm. It was not that Yi Xian could not step into the creation realm, but Yi Xian had suppressed his cultivation to the peak of the Nine Heavens Saint King realm and did not allow himself to step into this realm. As everyone knew, if a person stepped into the creation realm, he would attract the creation divine tribulation. This creation divine tribulation was extremely terrifying and was as famous as the chaos divine tribulation. If one could not overcome it, they would turn into ashes and die. The danger was definitely much higher than the chaos divine tribulation. If Yi Xian stepped into the creation realm, the creation divine tribulation would descend. If Yi Xian guessed correctly, his creation divine tribulation would not be that simple. It would definitely be extremely terrifying. Back then, he had undergone a variant chaos divine tribulation. Yi Xian was extremely sure that his creation divine tribulation would also undergo a variant. However, at this moment, he did not have the time to undergo the tribulation. Therefore, Yi Xian chose to suppress his cultivation to the peak of the Nine Heavens Saint King in order to prevent the creation divine tribulation from descending at this moment. This was because it wasn't the time for him to transcend his tribulation yet. He would only attract his own creation divine tribulation when the time came. Even though he had not stepped into blessed realm, after devouring Li Jiwei's cultivation, the power in Yi Xian's body had increased qualitatively. It could not be compared to before, and this was something that Yi Xian felt gratified about. Most importantly, Yi Xian had his own plans for suppressing his own cultivation. He had a faint plan in his heart, and perhaps this creation divine tribulation would be able to help him at the most critical moment. As for what Yi Xian was thinking, only he knew. Sigh. When Yi Xian came back to his senses, he looked indifferently at the pool of blood on the ground. His heart was filled with complex emotions about Li Jiwei's death. It was not that Yi Xian pitied Li Jiwei, but after seeing Li Jiwei's death, Yi Xian truly recognized the cruelty of this world. Li Jiwei was also considered a genius. Otherwise, she would not have been able to become the second spiritual son of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace. However, in the end, she was still defeated by Earth Demon Luo and became a stepping stone for others. Yi Xian understood one thing very well. The great Tongtian path was rugged and difficult to traverse. Only by stepping on the bones of others could one reach the top of the chaotic 9 heavens and become the supreme existence that dominated the chaotic universe. Li Jiwei gave Yi Xian a wake-up call. No matter if you were a peerless heaven's pride or an eternal genius, if you could not defeat the enemies of the heavens, you would eventually become the bones under the feet of others. This path was rugged and difficult to traverse. There was no way out because taking a step back would lead to a bottomless abyss, which would lead to a tragic death. Li Jiwei, you can go in peace. I will fulfill my promise to you. If you still have an afterlife, then be an ordinary person and don't get involved in the disputes of this world. Yi Xian let out a long sigh as he strode away from Li Jiwei's residence. Li Jiwei has transformed into the Tao. In the Greenwood Pavilion, Yi Xian said indifferently. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master and others were slightly startled. In the next moment, their expressions returned to normal. There was not the slightest ripple on their faces. No one felt sorry for Li Jiwei's death. It was as if the death of an insignificant ant. Because he was just a cripple. If he died, then so be it. He was simply insignificant. The world has been destroyed and there is no future. Perhaps death is a kind of relief for him. Violet Spirit sighed softly. He's just a cripple. It's too easy for him to apologize with his death. Yuan Tian said contemptuously. It's good that he died. Otherwise, when he returned to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, he would have to go to the Heavenly Capital Court. Now, he doesn't have to suffer like this. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master said indifferently. Little 9, now you are the only one among the 4 Spirit Sons who has advanced. Are you confident in the top 4 battle after 1,000 years? The Heavenly Grip Hall Master changed the topic and looked at Yi Xian with slight expectation. I will do my best. Yi Xian said calmly. I see that the Extreme Emotion Heavenly Palace's method is ineffective against you. If your next opponent is Ji Zhonglu and you can defeat him, when you return to the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, you can replace Li Jiwei as the 2nd Spirit Son. The Heavenly Grip Hall Master said earnestly. Little brother, this time it's all up to you. Violet Spirit was also cheering for Yi Xian. Looking at the expectant eyes of the Heavenly Grip Hall Master and others, Yi Xian nodded slightly, but no one knew what he was thinking. Time was the most ruthless thing. It could heal all scars and make people forget too much of the past. Therefore, some people said that time was the best medicine. It could cure all the pain in the world and make a person's heart completely calm. 1,000 years passed in a flash. When Yi Xian came out of seclusion, his temperament was a little different, but no one could tell what the difference was. It was also on this day that the top 4 battle really began. The sound of the drums came, and the sound of the mountains and the sea was rippling. People from all sects entered the arena one after another, which meant that the talents' grand gathering had begun again. Today's top 4 battle would be wonderful. The 4 contestants, please come to the stage to draw lots. With the voice of the Greenwood Pavilion Master, the top 4 contestants stepped onto the arena one after another to determine their next opponents. At this moment, the Heavenly Grip Hall Master and others were a little nervous. They hoped that Yi Xian would draw Ji Zhonglu, which might give them a chance to win. If he was matched against Lu Bai and Earth Demon Luo, they were afraid that Yi Xian would lose without a doubt. There was an old saying that the more you fear, the more likely it will happen. When Yi Xian unfolded the paper in his hand, it was Earth Demon Luo from the Devouring Demonic Palace. Hee hee. Suddenly, a burst of light laughter came. God is really looking after me. My next opponent is actually you. Earth Demon Luo stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Yi Xian didn't respond, as if he was treating Earth Demon Luo as air. This made Earth Demon Luo's face turn cold, and a cruel smile appeared on his face. The first battle, Yao Yueye from the Myriad Spirit Palace versus Earth Demon Luo from the Devouring Demonic Palace. As the Greenwood Pavilion Master announced the first battle, Lu Bai and Ji Zhonglu left the arena, leaving only Yi Xian and Earth Demon Luo in the arena. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.